May 11th, 2022. Road Department. What we did, you should, Eric is going to hand out, pass around. This is the budget that we presented. Good morning. Bearing gifts, I see. Those the diet ones?
Yeah.
You came in with 3 boxes. You did.
I eat a whole box on the way up here.
But today, we just got everybody scheduled to come in. I think we're on a 30-minute, maybe some got an hour,
The road department's first and they have an hour.
just if we needed. Put everybody on notice that if we're ahead of schedule, we'll give them a text. But this is just to go through. I want y'all to hear from the departments. Typically, what's been done in the past is I sit down with everybody and bring you guys a balanced budget. And then we discuss details with the budget. But this year, I wanted you to see, and you should have noticed, this that was presented to DLG just shows payroll and statutory requirements. And the OTA on this one is at $5.5 million. So that should have caught everybody's attention. Not going to have, I don't expect too many decisions today, more or less just to hear from the departments. Did you just want us on camera eating donuts?
Yeah, I figured I'd put a
That's
box. just
that's
in-
incriminating.
Yeah, that's right. Deal.
He can't get his strength back. So that's gonna take some time. He won't-
Did everybody get road departments?
Yep.
All right. Lord, Nicole, floor is yours.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay, as you see on your first page, we are in desperate need of some road salt this year. 1,200 tons, 150,000.
It holds 2,000 tons.
So that would fill it back up to 2,000. You got 800.
You're sure about the snow, right?
Because last year we didn't
Buy any.
we didn't buy any, right?
Yeah, what we did last year was, we had about 3 bids that came in and you approved them all. And that way, if we needed to buy
Yeah.
any, we just could. This year we put out that we'd buy 1,200 tons in our bid.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, and road striping, it's just like everything else that has went up this year. And so we've requested 15,000. I think last year it was 10,000. And then Benny Garland got his Class A, so we were gonna bump him up the 25 cents to meet his certification. And then under training, we're asking for 5,000. I think last year it was 2,000. The reason why is because we got the new bucket truck. And this past year, we did have some training, but we still need to train the guys that are gonna be on the ground operating it from up above, that way, if anything happens.
So do they come in and do that, or do
No,
our
they
guys
come-
go to them, or?
They come to our location.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Who does that, Nicole?
Alltech.
It's Alltech.
Alltech. And then, of course, the pesticide we do that every year to keep our guys up to date on that. And then culverts have went up along with everything else. So we've requested 120,000. This past time, we had 100,000. And then I have down at the bottom that possibly replacing employee Jason Oakley, but now we have learned that we will be needing to replace him. He's going to be retiring this next fiscal year, I think in June, right?
That's right.
And then,
And possibly.
Strike
one more.
out possibly.
yeah, and then
Possibly another
possibly
one?
one more,
Right,
Say
right.
Jackie
June of this
Henson.
fiscal year?
It's coming.
2023.
So what that looks like for Jason, if today he was to retire, that would be about a $6,500 payout for his comp and vacation. That doesn't include, obviously, his retirement and FICA. That's just his gross. Now, that's assuming that he didn't take any, but that's also assuming that he's got 230 hours. That could be an additional 10 hours of vacation that could be included.
Okay. Go back to what you just said, though. June, not in a month, but
June 2023.
13 months from now. Okay. So he's gonna, all right.
So still,
So the
It
impact
would-
truly is gonna be the payout more than the replacing
Correct.
him, right? Because
Right.
you're just gonna have like 1 month there, I
Right.
guess, where you have to replace him or something. Is that right?
and it'd probably be at
Correct.
a lower rate, bringing somebody in new. It won't be at the rate that he would be in, so there's that, but you're only talking about a month.
So, last year, we did put an amount out there, didn't we? Did we ever, have we used any of that? Yeah. Didn't we do that?
Talking
Remember?
about budgeting for
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
I know we discussed the total payout,
Yeah,
potential
we-
payout.
We did, but then we ended up, lower. We didn't do the whole thing, but it seems like we did 100,000 or something like that, didn't we?
We put 10,000 in under lump sum to pay off.
Oh. 0. 1 0 off. Okay, did we use any of that?
I don't
Out of
think
curiosity.
that was here, right?
So that was
So-
just in their fund?
But that was in with their salary.
Okay, hang on then. Did we, that's all we did it? We just did it on the road department? I thought we did,
Let me look and see if it's in its own line.
yeah. I didn't think we did like individual, or maybe you,
I feel like we
You-
talked about
you
it.
may
and
have
I don't
taken it.
remember if it ended up- Let's look.
Like I said, we had a possibility of one more. He's waiting on, getting some information from Frankfurt.
would it be the same thing around the same time, or do you know? Around June of next year too?
And if, like you said, Brad, if our operator leaves, Odie leaves, it will be a price difference when we hire somebody new, but we would also like to move somebody up into an operator's position. So it'd really be the same money, I guess.
Yes, we put in 25 grand into the other line.
Okay,
It hasn't been used at this point in time.
okay.
But I know that there's retirement, so.
Before the fiscal year end, would it be, you don't know how much money of that it would take? I know we're talking about next budget year, but just curious on when we did that, if we,
I know we've talked about it, but the unfunded liabilities, that amount, we do have to, at some point, discuss it. I think it was close to $500,000.
Okay, I don't know that there will be a payout for the person who's about to retire.
oh, okay.
There will be as much as anything. Right, Monty was asking about current fiscal year.
And then, of course, I had down also highlighted that we need last year's budget, everything on last year's budget, along with everything that we have on this list.
When y'all see the grade all on there at 425,000, the grade all that we have now has some mechanical issues. It's getting metal in the hydraulic system. And it can be very pricey to replace. And I think on one of the sheets it shows
Southeastern Equipment.
2005 grade all that we have now. A trade-in value of 11,000.
Which one is that? Southeast.
Yeah,
You see two listed, a 2005 and a 2017. We done it a couple, two different ways, but we'd like to go with the trading in the 2005 on the new one. If not, we can get a new grade all, then that's why you see a Kubota, that's a Kubota excavator, that would take the place of the grade all.
and that's
Through the
this
same
quote.
company? Oh. So they wouldn't do a trade-in? They wouldn't take this?
Well, we
We'd have to
didn't
just,
ask. This is from McKeel Equipment.
so they wouldn't have any,
If we went with the Kubota,
Great.
we'd probably do the sell-in on Gov Deals.
Is a Kubota on tracks or tires? Because you said
Yeah, it's
excavator.
just like we have a Kubota excavator now on rubber tracks.
Right.
And this one would just be a bigger one on rubber tracks.
So it'd have to be hauled where the great all we can drive it, or
Right.
you can drive it, or they can drive it, or whatever. Okay.
so it's or those two? Top or those two combined? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the great all, if not the great all, the Kubota. Because we're afraid, the mechanics are afraid that the great all that we have now could anytime.
Was that one bought new? Do you know? I was just trying to look and
What?
see.
I
Do-
think
Was that one bought new? I just wondered how long
Yes.
they lasted.
Yes.
Yeah, so 17 years, okay.
They do lease?
They do lease.
Just wondered.
We had down another new tractor. We just bought one, but we have 3 that are getting really old. Requiring a lot of maintenance.
I think with this time, if you don't plan ahead on buying something, and when you decide you want it, it may take a year or two to get it. I don't remember when we decided to buy a tractor, this last one we bought, it's been a while. We're still looking at, maybe we get it in the second week of June. That's a maybe. Every time we ask, it's waiting on something to be shipped for it, or
Lucky if you get it within a year.
right, yeah. So I would keep that in, I think we need to keep that in mind, how long it takes to get stuff. back to the road striping is what we've done. We've already got the roads picked out, which y'all see, we give you all paper on the roads that we picked out to pave next fiscal year. That road striping, we went out and we identified them roads that needs to be striped, that'll have to be striped, and that's the money for them.
Is that being discussed with FEMA too, Roy, the striping, when you're out looking at roads?
Well, on any of the roads that's damaged from the tornado, there's only one. I think one road that's involved with striping, and that's Morris Camp Highway. And we have not evaluated, that's actually today. We'll be evaluating that, so we may be discussing that today. But we base our paving off of, past, around $600,000 is what we base the paving on. When we go to pick out our roads for the next fiscal year. But the price of blacktop has increased, at least $10, if not more, a ton. So that's why you see a big, over the $600,000 for paving.
Yeah, if you'll look on this back page, it's a summary of everything.
All them roads listed, that was priced at a little bit under just a little bit under 600,000. Then the blacktop has jumped so high, it's put it to 670 for the same roads. So if we don't get the 670, then we just start taking roads off of that list. I priced it, what, 2 or 3 weeks ago? So I don't know what the price is right now.
They were thinking it was gonna go up again.
Anytime gas goes up, you can pretty well bet blacktop's going up too.
Any questions on anything?
As far as, I know that your employment policy is people hit certain timelines, they get raises. Are there going to be people that fall in that in this year that I need to go ahead and plan on the salary side? Nobody's hitting a mark to change, okay.
Only changes would be if,
Benny?
yeah, Benny, and then if, I guess, if our one operator retires, then we'd like to move somebody up with the operator scale.
Okay. So they would replace that person, and then you'd have to fill that person's gap. So it should be about even out.
It should, yes.
Let me make sure I understand again, because I think if no on the grade-all, you would want both the Kubota and the tractor? No, just one or the other.
We need the tractor, regardless.
Oh, so the tractor
That's to
is
mow
on
the
its
right
own.
of ways.
Yeah, it's.
It is a
it's
one, but it's also, yeah.
So it's the Grado or the Kubota
Yes.
and the tractor.
We would prefer to have the great all.
Great dog number one. Got it.
Prefer to have the gray dog.
Number one. You heard that.
I heard it.
So you said that the Great All, you have a quote in here that has a trade-in value, right? But not on the Kubota.
No, we wouldn't be trading anything in with it on the Kubota.
Would you be selling it on, which one would you be selling on GovDeals?
The old Great All we would sell on GovDeals if we went with a Kubota.
What's the salvage value, you think of that? What would you get out of it?
That trade-in was 11, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you did it on GovDeals, I mean, would you still expect 11? I don't know, like giving you a deal so you'll get another Great All.
I think the last Great All we sold on GovDeals was like 20, maybe. I'd have to look back just to be sure, but I'm thinking it was like 20,000.
So it's safe to
But
say
it-
somewhere between the 11 and the 20.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question. I know we talked about the salt building in the past, the building that houses the salt. Is it still holding the salt? Is it gonna fall over?
What we've done is we've reduced the amount of salt that we're putting in the building. So I think it'll last a little while longer. We was putting, it's only designed to hold so many tons of salt, and we was putting almost twice what it was designed
To hold.
to hold, and it was kind of pushing the walls out, so we've reduced that.
So I'm assuming, once we add this 1,200 though, that's not double what it should be, right? Okay. Okay.
That's just getting us to where we have salt to use.
Okay. Well, based on the insanity of the weather over the last 12 months, I would certainly not be surprised if we have something like that. Weather. That Noah's a nice guy, but man, I'm just tired. My God,
And it could
wearing
go,
me out, man.
you could go a winter and not have any snow. It's the chance you take.
That's the chance we took last year, right?
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, there's not much salt in there right
No.
now. We done what we had to do, but we got
Yep.
a small amount of salt in there now. I'd feel more comfortable with a full barn.
I know it's been 2 years ago since we talked about the salt building. I can't recall, did the maintenance guys or somebody come out and talk about maybe, we're just working on the building so it's in better condition? Or did we not even look into that?
We didn't look into that. Yeah, I priced.
Oh, yeah, we started pricing a metal deal.
Way up there.
We even looked at alternate locations throughout the county, because you get this county, you drive from one end to the other, you gotta come back, it's a big expense.
Yeah, in bad weather, it may take 45 minutes to get from Aurora back to the shop just to get a load of salt. It's a lot of time. But yeah, the buildings was expensive.
Are there any other issues with y'all's building that you see coming up in the next year or 2 or 3 that we need to plan out for? You're in it every day.
Not that we see.
I think we we budgeted last year for some, just to keep in there in case anything came up, so. Because you never know.
Okay, so that being said, when we talk about equipment then, and this Great All, is there like if we did a lease on this over a certain term, would there be another, I mean, I know there's unforeseen, but as far as other equipment, would there be another need within that amount of time during that lease? Does that make sense?
You have another
Yeah,
aging
yeah.
equipment.
An
that's
aging
coming up.
piece of equipment that if we did a 8-year lease, let's say, and put this on that, do we
Only-
foresee another piece of equipment that would need to be replaced within that lease term?
The tractors.
You said you had 3 old ones.
I was looking for a no.
And with the tractors,
I know
we
you
need to
was.
start replacing one every year, really.
I don't know if you were feeling that, obviously
I
not.
felt it.
Oh, okay,
I
You
felt
could
it.
feel your eyes.
okay.
So you're saying potentially 2 more tractors in the next 1 to 2 years?
Which is the 170.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that was
Exactly.
whenever this quote was.
so it could be.
Gotcha.
I know the tractor guy, Alex, he's probably getting tired of me because I got to call back every week and get
Updated quote.
a price.
Can we just find out what a lease term would be?
Is that not what it's
I think-
basically going to be the payments. Is what
Huh.
it's going to be. What is you know what the one is now? We got, which we're leasing one now.
Yeah, it is 60, hang on, I'll tell you for sure. Bear with me just a second. It's a little over 60,000 a year.
Yeah, I mean, if you just take that 425, divide it over 8 years.
I think it's an 8-year.
$53,000 a year.
I just threw an 8-year lease out there. Is
Yeah.
that actually what
8 years.
the normal term
That
is?
price would be 53 grand.
That's what we did on the 2017 grade all that we have now.
The one that we have leased now, and you may not know the answer to this, is it ours at the end of the lease? Is there a buyout amount or?
I believe, I don't have the contract right here in front of me, but I can get it, but I believe it is ours at the end of it. I think it's like $1 maybe at the end.
All right, so the answer I wanted to know to is a yes. 2 tractors within that 8-year period of time that would need to be replaced?
Very possible. I mean, these tractors, they run 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 6 months. It takes a toll on them.
And that grade all, again, that last grade all that we bought it new in 05, you assume, and that, so we got 17 years out of it. So if you did the lease, you'd still get another potentially double that time. I mean, that's not bad at least, I guess. That's about same age as my truck out there. Wondering this morning if it was actually gonna make it in here.
Well, when the
I
guys,
was gonna have to pick me up.
when that grade all goes out, we wonder if we got to go get it or not. So we're about in the same boat. That is the most used piece of equipment at the road department, is the grade hauls.
Any other questions?
All right. Guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, y'all ready?
Yes.
Okay, don't be looking ahead. You have to look as I go through it. Okay, so the first thing that I'm requesting on this is Justin Stockdale. I really feel like he deserves a raise at this point. He has been with us for 5 years now. I believe we looked at that, and it's at 5 years. The first 2 pages in your packet, he has got his bucket truck certification, and then he has also completed a groundskeeping online training that we found for them. So he does have those 2 certificates in the packet. But above that, even though he's been there for 5 years, Justin Stockdale literally embodies exactly what we want as a county employee. He is dependable. He is a hard worker. There is nothing that we have ever asked him to do that he complained about. He's a self-starter. He can handle projects. He goes above and beyond when working with the public and with other employees. So he is very, very, very deserving of getting this raise.
How much is that raise?
He was at, what did we look at on Fiscal? I have this written down. I was ready. We looked at it last time. His current rate of pay is $18.90 per hour. He's staff 4, and the range for that is $14.06 to $19.41.
So you gonna top him out to 19?
That
Would you say 1941?
1941. Would be-
1406 to 1941, that's staff 4 range.
Yeah, that would be my suggestion. He was hired in before that. He was one of those that kind of got caught in that pay scale change. So that would be my suggestion. He's absolutely deserving of being put at that
Got a good
1941.
employee, you need to value him.
Absolutely. Okay, the next one that I've got on there is Morgan Lemaster, our parks secretary. When we looked at hers, she actually is not even in her pay scale. She is under her pay scale. This is an employee, she has a bachelor's degree from UK. She is unbelievable at what she does, and even the things that aren't her job. She's on top of things. She's wonderful. I included her resume that has been updated in there. She has also taken it upon herself and paid for these classes on her own to take classes through the University of Georgia to get certified in grant writing for us so that we can start moving ahead with that. So those 2 certificates are in there for advanced grant proposal writing and fundamentals of grant writing 1. That's something that she paid for on her own just to help her be more, to contribute more to the team at the parks, which I think speaks volumes of her commitment and how she does her job. She was also recognized with an award last year from the Kentucky Recreation and Park Society for, I believe it was Staff of the Year, and that was at the state level. So she's, again, absolutely everything that we want in a county employee, and she really needs to be recognized that for that, and she is currently under her pay scale.
Y'all want that information?
Yeah,
She's
I'd like to have it.
She's $13.94 an hour. She is professional staff, and that range is $14.76 to $21.23 per hour. So she's $13.94 an hour. She's professional staff, and that's $14.76 to $21.23 is the range.
And I am open to input on where we put her on that scale. I mean, obviously, even without these certificates that she's gotten, we need to get her in the pay scale. But then I think we also need to take into consideration the fact that these grant writing classes that she has taken, I mean, that could also be an asset to other departments in the county if that need arises as well. So I think we need to take that into consideration when we decide where we're going to put her
She
on that
definitely
pay
needs to
scale.
be bumped up. But
Did we use any of that? Didn't we, there again, I think we did maybe a $5,000 line or something like that for grant writing this past year?
We put 10 grand
10.
in my office.
Oh, it's still yours, hadn't used it.
Okay. So,
So that being said, let me go back to that.
Yeah.
So that would be I think that's a management, you all would have to maybe work that out, but is that something that could be done separately versus paying for something that is not used? Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
So like per grant application or something?
Yeah,
Or is that not a?
'Cause I definitely don't think we want to stretch her to saying that she's the county grant writer. Like,
No.
we don't want to do that
No.
by any means. Now, within the park, I think we can just kind of take that into consideration with her pay. But yeah, I think if a situation comes up where another department needs assistance with grants, then I think that's probably what you're saying, like per
Yes.
project, that could be tapped into that way.
just remember, there are other people that are writing grants that are not getting paid.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful on
So don't
how we approach
do
it.
that. Yeah, okay. I got you.
And that's fine. We can just take that into consideration for where we place
Yes.
her on the pay scale
Yes.
with the park.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, the next thing on the list here, okay, 2 years ago, we used to have, from the staff that we have now, we had 2 part-time employees and then an additional full-time employee. Okay, so the changes happened, the cuts happened. Last year, we went to 2 seasonal employees. That did not work well for us at all. Having 2 seasonal employees was great for mowing and weed eating purposes, but left us struggling the rest of the year because we still have Christmas lights and things like that that take up a huge amount of time. So what we did currently in this current budget is instead of rehiring the 2 seasonal that were budgeted for, we hired 1 part-time instead of the seasonal. So what I want to request for this coming budget is that instead of doing the seasonal, we keep the 1 part-time we have, but then add that additional part-time person back. So I'm asking that 1 part-time person be added to what we have now, which would take us back to what we used to have as far as part-time employees.
So
And-
on a budget amount basis, does it affect budget or is it a net?
If she's paying them the same as far as like a budget that you're looking at in that year, there would be not much difference. But when you're offering somebody part-time employment, you're offering them part-time employment indefinitely until you lay them off. So with our seasonal people, the next year, if we could not afford them, if it wasn't in the budget, we just wouldn't have them again. So that's the difference there you're looking at. But as far as monetarily, I assume that they'd be paid around
Still
the same.
$12 an hour.
And they'd work around the same amount of hours in a year's worth when you're looking at a year. But I think the implications are more long-term than they are in that fiscal year you're looking at.
And that primarily, we use those part-time people especially to help cover those night shifts, which allows our full-time employees to be there during the day when the majority of our work is done. So it's a huge help to us to be able to have those part-time people there for nights when it's primarily just, patrolling trash issues, being over baseball games, and that way I can get all of my full-time employees back to the day hours when most of the primary work is being done at the park for maintenance. Okay, the Birmingham boat dock and boat ramp. Those are currently in our budget for this year. We got that put in on this current budget. However, I've talked to them. It is going to be September before they can get to it. So we are kind of on their schedule, but it's just going to be September. So those funds are there in the budget, but we just need them there for next year because they're not going to be able to get to it before the end of this fiscal year. On this current budget, we budgeted for Buckhorn and Birmingham. Buckhorn is completed. They did get that dock done, but it will just be September before Birmingham can be done. There has been a $2,000 increase in the price from what we originally budgeted this time last year. So that makes it $17,800 for that dock at Birmingham. That dock was in really bad shape. It's lopsided and half of it's sink in, and it's a whole mess. With that, We had also done for the boat ramp. The road department does our boat ramp work. We all know they have been stretched crazy. It's been a crazy year for everybody. So I would like to carry those two projects over to this next budget and make sure that those funds are still there so that we can get Birmingham taken care of this coming year. And there is a breakdown of that estimate included in the packet that will explain exactly what we are doing with that dock. So that is in there. The next one is Rocky Point. That boat dock is a hot mess.
Completely detached from the walkway.
Yes, it's a goner at this point. I have, if you'll turn to that page, I have sent
Can we
you.
turn it into FEMA? Was it?
Well, that's a good.
So, yes, so that is an option.
Option.
Yes, and I'm hoping, I went ahead and included it here because I want to make sure that we have that project covered even if something doesn't come through on that other end. I'd rather be prepared and be proactive instead of trying to react after the fact. So I've included 3 different options for what could be done at Rocky Point. And you'll see all 3 of those prices. The one thing that they did explain to me is that dock is really bad about rocking back and forth quite a bit. So if we go with a larger dock and a wider dock, that will help combat some of that. It will stabilize it a little bit more. But I did go ahead and include all 3 options. So you'll see those prices range from $22,700 up to $28,400. Okay. On the travel line, I'm requesting an increase of $1,500 on the travel line. I want to explain that there is, and I have included information about the NRPA conference that we go to every year. There are 2 conferences that we go to every year. There is KRPS, which is the Kentucky Recreation and Park Society, and then there is NRPA, which is the National Recreation and Parks Association. Both of these conferences are absolutely amazing. NRPA this year is in Phoenix, so that is part of the request for the increases to cover those flights. But we will be able to sign up to actually work and volunteer at the conference as room hosts for some of the education sessions and things like that. That will lower our fees to attend the conference. So we're going to be doing that to help offset some of the cost on the conference itself. But I did include, so that you all can see just the value of these conferences, the different education tracks, in addition to being able to meet with representatives from all different kinds of vendors and parks-related things. There are a lot of amazing education tracks that are offered, and that is essentially, this conference is primarily education classes. Last year we did classes on everything from different grant options that are available, funding options. We did roundtable discussions with other parks departments to find out how other parks departments are addressing certain issues. So it's so valuable, and I would say a large majority of what we have been able to change and do is from things that we have learned at these conferences. So Robin and I both attend that NRPA. She does the recreation track type classes that talks about programming and sports and athletics, and then I go to park management classes that are talking about marketing, economic development, tourism, and how to work together with all of those different areas of government so that we can maximize what we're able to do as a parks department. At KRPS this year, we want to be able to take Matt, our maintenance supervisor, with us to KRPS. They have started offering a maintenance education track at the Kentucky conference. So now that they have those maintenance-specific education classes, I think it would be really beneficial to be able to take our maintenance supervisor. He would be working with other maintenance supervisors across the state. They do a lot of hands-on type training, talking about turf maintenance, different equipment options, and all kinds of different things. So that is what would justify that $1,500 extra in that travel line, is to be able to make sure that we are getting as many of those education opportunities for our department as possible. Okay, mowers, and I'm going to have to reference some notes that they just sent over. Can you hear my phone? Mower and a Ranger. We are at a point right now, and let me get this breakdown for you.
Okay. Mowers and Rangers that we have currently we're getting down to bare bones. We've got a couple that are not even able to be used at this point that we're gonna need to surplus, but we really need to replace one mower and one Ranger for sure this year. The Rangers are so beneficial for our park staff because there's a lot of places that they can go that trucks can't go. We also use the Rangers when we're prepping the ball fields and the soccer fields. We can drive those out on the fields without hurting any of the fields or any of those areas. They can also get the staff down in the areas that are on the walking trails where like trucks or vehicles like that can't go. Right now, we have a total of 4 mowers. One is on a lease. That lease will be up in October, and then we'll just renew it because that's already budgeted for to do a new lease on that one. We have 2 that are operational and good, and then that 4th mower is constantly needing repairs, just constantly. So that's where we're at with that. On the Rangers, we have 6 total, and 3 are completely out of commission. 3 of our 6 Rangers cannot be used at all. The other 3 are getting pretty high on the mileage and are needing to be worked on. So I went ahead and requested 1 of each, and then hopefully we can kind of get on a plan with these Rangers to start maybe doing 1 each year so that we don't end up in this situation. On the walking trails, if you, in our current budget, we have a parks, what is that line called? The Parks Projects or something like that is what it's called in here. No, not that one. Let me find it. I have tried to find where to cover these things and what we currently have in the budget. So this is the County Parks Improvement Projects. That is where this past year we had the asphalt patching, we had the tennis court resurfacing, which is going to be done this month. End of this month is when that tennis court is going to be done. So that line has $50,000 in it. We are also getting ready to put some shade structures up on the playground, which is something that's been really requested. That's where those kinds of things come from. So what my plan is to keep that line at that $50,000, and I want to begin using $15,000 to $20,000 of that every year to resurface a portion of the walking trails. If you looked at the walking trails as a whole, it's about a $250,000 project to repave those walking trails. And to be perfectly honest, it's probably not the best idea to go in and redo it all at once for a couple of different reasons, but one of those being the way those trails are laid out. There are a lot of tree roots that are just going to cause continuous damage. So if we look at doing $15,000 to $20,000 a section of the trails each year, we can get in a position where we're constantly keeping it fresh and updated. It's just not done all at once, but that gives us time to kind of figure out the tree situations and go around those situations instead of having a $250,000 project all at one time. The additional money that would be left in that budget would be for things like playground updates and things like that we need to do each year for things that break and stuff like that. So that $15,000 that I put in there for the trail resurfacing would just be an amount that is already currently budgeted, just making sure we keep that line the same for next year. And then the last thing, if you'll turn to the end of your packets, one thing, as we have grown, we have started doing so many more program options at the park. So Picnic in the Park, the summer play series that we have coming up, the tennis clinics that we have, Boo Bash, all of these different things, plus all of the veterans events that are hosted at the park. And one of the biggest things that we hear about is that people didn't know about them. Even though we send out press releases, even though we do social media posts and we send home flyers with every backpack in the county and we do all of these things. So we have priced an LED sign for the entrance, and you'll see the mock-up of what that would look like on the last page there. This would be a full color LED sign at the entrance where we could put events and things up like that. We could also post information about severe weather if that were to happen. We can post information about rainouts for games, and it's just the options are endless on what we would be able to do with that. So that is that estimate. It was $30,000. Now, when I got this estimate, this was in 2021, so there may have been a little bit of fluctuation in that price, but $30,000 is a good estimate. If it ended up being more than that, I can definitely pull that from that County Park Improvement Projects line, so that wouldn't be an issue there.
But I wanted to offer that up to you guys as an option because I think that would be very beneficial to help get the word out about lots of different things to the county.
And that's in addition, right? That's not like the last
Correct.
one where it's in there. Okay.
Right, yeah, that one would be in addition to what's currently budgeted. Any questions for me? I tried to be reasonable and keep it, to a minimum. A lot of these things that we do at the park, I want to brag on our community for a little bit because, for example, this big summer play series that we're doing this summer, things like that, we don't have to tap into our budget at all because we have built up such an amazing sponsorship program throughout the year. Those banners that you see in the park year-round, those are businesses in the community that are sponsoring things for in the park. So we're able to pull for a lot of these free programs that we want to offer to the community. We don't have to tap into our budgeted dollars to be able to do that. We're able to use those advertising and sponsorship monies that come in throughout the year to be able to pay for that. So we try to manage that and use that to offset a lot of these expenses for things that we want to do so that we can be responsible with the tax dollars that we do have and use those for, improvement projects and substantial things that will make the biggest impact on the county.
What? Were you about to say something?
No, I was just,
So we will pick up some advantage, I guess, with Hardin being off of
That, yes,
this
so there is a.
budget. Would it just be utilities
Yes.
essentially?
Utilities primarily, yes, is really the only expense that we had there. Those lights were updated. We did budget for that last year for the ball court lights, but it's not an ongoing continuous expense.
Yeah.
So it'll just be the difference in the utilities.
Okay.
Mhm.
So maybe so you just keep utilities the same and maybe the decrease in having Hardin on there takes up maybe for any increase in rates, I guess? I mean, would it be that enough to take up for that, do you know?
I mean, as far as the increase in rates on
Well, just,
something.
Electricity.
Yeah, I think there would probably be enough of a slush there to be able to cover some of these price increases that we can't anticipate from the older quotes. As far as those types of things go, I will make those work within my budget somewhere. I will cover those somewhere in them. That county park improvement line, for example, I can pull from that. I try to typically wait closer to the end of the year to do any of those extra projects that I don't anticipate and aren't necessarily budgeted for in case something were to come up and I need to use those funds somewhere else. So that's, for example, that's why we are just now getting ready to order some of the playground updates because I wanted to make sure nothing else in the park happened that drastically needed attention before then. So, yes, I can cover any of the price increases on any of these projects from that line specifically, as long as it stays where it's at now.
I guess we could ask this to each department, but you don't have any retirement possibilities within the park, do you?
Anybody that's going to be retiring?
Or that would be, yeah,
No.
you don't have.
Not that
Most of
has-
yours are not.
Yeah, not that has been publicly stated or no. Mm-mm.
you got anything to add, Robin?
I have questions. I'm going to ask you the same questions I'm asking everybody else. You all are in your building all the time, in all of your buildings, so you know, hopefully, kind of condition. Can you foresee anything in the next 2 or 3 years that needs to be addressed? Like, think about heating and air, or your roof, or structural, or anything like that, plumbing issues. Which I know you have a ton of buildings to
We
think
do. I know. I'm
think of.
sitting here going through all of
Probably,
all
yeah.
of the buildings in my head. I would say I would probably start to be aware of AC. It's not. We did have to have somebody come out this past summer to do some things to our air unit there at the visitor center. They were able to fix it and it was okay, and they didn't give me that, like, I call it the black
Ready.
screen of death that, that you get, like that, be ready, it's coming. But it's getting on up there in age. We do currently have, I just got a call yesterday that one of the air units in one of our concessions buildings, they're having to call somebody to come out and look at it, which was something that we didn't anticipate at all. So we are at a point with Mike Miller specifically where, everything was built there at one time. So we are starting to get to a point where things are wearing out at the same time. So I kind of say that, I guess, cautiously, that there isn't anything I'm sitting there like watching every day, crossing my fingers and toes and praying that it doesn't go out.
But we don't want to get to that point before we know about it.
Exactly.
We want to know about it,
Yes,
maybe a year or two before
Yes,
you're
yeah.
praying that it's
So
staying together.
we are at a point where AC units and things like that are getting some age on them and are needing some repairs, but we have not been told yet that we are at a point where it's like on life support. Yeah.
We're lucky to be that fiscal court that had prior fiscal courts build everything within like a 5-year period of time.
It's all gonna go down
they're
here
operating.
at the same time. Yes.
And now they're going,
It's
here we
over
are.
20.
Here we are dealing with it, yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of an educated guess for them, but when they're making repairs, you might ask them on a timeline,
Sure.
life cycle.
And they are coming out today or tomorrow. They're coming out tomorrow, so I will have them kind of give me an estimate on what they're seeing on those. I can do that for sure. As, other things, and it's kind of the same in the concession stand itself. All of the sudden, of course, like 2 weeks ago, we had one of the big commercial coolers go out, a popcorn machine went out, a coffee maker went out. It was like everything, because everything was purchased at the same time, we're kind of hitting that phase. We were able to cover all of those costs within our budget because we are contractually obligated to supply all of those things for the concessions contract. So we were able to make it work within our current budget, so it wasn't anything that sent me into a tailspin. But, we are getting there, and we saw that with the baseball lights this past year. We had, oh my gosh, I forgot how many tens and tens and tens of lights that went out at the same time because they were all put in at the same time. So we are getting there at that point. Now, we are doing another big light update at the park this year, but I was able to make it work within my current budget. So there are a new slew of lights that have gone out, but we were able to make that work within our current budget, and it wasn't anything that we had to move anything major around for, so.
So, are you saying that would come off there, or you'd still keep that?
What are we talking about?
Well, you had a special projects line for Christmas last year, right?
Yeah, we have that every year.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Just keep it the same.
Yes. So for that, it takes about $10,000 every year to put on that Christmas in the Park light show. Lights have to be restrung, they have to be updated. There's typically tons of cords that go out or get burnt out that have to be replaced, different things like that. So that $10,000 basically keeps all our lights in working order. They go on a rotation, so that each year some of those lights are taken out and repainted and rewired and relit. And we are in the process of switching all of those lights over to LED, so that hopefully that will be more cost efficient in the long run with our utility bills and things like that. And then they also last a lot longer. So that is what the majority of that goes to. They do that every year. The ones that they do restring, they replace with LED lights, so that we are moving to be, more efficient with our light show. Because we are, with the Christmas in the Park light show, we are maxed out on the amount of lights that we can have because of the amount of electricity that is pulled from those lights. So hopefully that will help with that as well, switching over to those LEDs.
What about the Miracle League line? Is that a carryover because of tornado and
Yes,
construction?
I'm going to kind of look to you for an answer on that one. We are just now getting ready to start.
Yeah, you can imagine the weather.
Yeah.
But Roy is actually getting ready to start dirt work. I think the contract takes us out to June, so it's a tight timeline, but he's
Yeah.
going to make it work.
Okay, so that line is gone for next year. That was a this year project.
I don't know that we'll be able to spend all those funds by,
Are you talking about in the budget or in the
yes.
foundation?
No, in the budget. That will probably need to be carried over, correct?
Too early to tell. I mean, it's unfortunate that weather,
Yeah,
we were ready to go, they were ready to go in the winter.
yeah. But I guess the point, though, is that regardless, it's either a carryover or it's gonna all be used, and there will not be a new amount line for that.
Well, the other thing we have to think about is that if we're talking going beyond the contract date, we're talking a new bid and potentially increased costs.
That
That's,
June 1 or June 30?
I'm hoping June 30.
Pretty sure it's
That's
June
why-
30.
That's why I told Roy is that we've got to get this going. And I mean, I came out, yesterday, and it was raining
Yeah,
this morning, I can't
this
remember.
morning, yeah.
And I
That's
was like,
overnight, I think, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But he said that they're going to start on that project.
okay.
So TBD,
Hell, yeah.
TBD.
Now, I know this may sound crazy, but can you update us on the endangered or protected? And the reason why
Yeah.
is potentially there could be a cost to
Yes.
handle these.
Okay, so, yes, I can. I don't know if y'all want to pull out your helmets that I've provided under the desk. when we
solution
talk
I
about the
had
hawk in
is
case it shows up.
Illegal.
Not,
Yeah, absolutely.
not able.
So we actually did, Fish and Wildlife was out this morning because of the fins program that we have for the lake to be stocked. And so Dane Balsman was out there with the fins program, and I actually talked to him about it too. He is going to Frankfurt, and he's going to bring up our killer hawk situation to see if there is anything else that Fish and Wildlife can do to help. In the meantime, okay, so there's the hawk problem. We do have an osprey that has been nested on field 4 up in the ball field lights. We have
Now,
that light.
Not to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
This is a huge nest. I don't even know how they flew
It's
it.
like-
It's half that table. I mean,
Yes, it's
big.
massive. But because this osprey is nested up there, we cannot fix our light. So that light is out. It needs to have lights replaced. But legally, we can't get up there and do that because of this osprey nesting up there, and it's federally protected. So I have talked to Seavers Beavers, and they have been, I know, I can't say it without laughing either. I know, I love it. Everybody get it out of your system.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have been great about handling our geese in the past and some other wildlife issues that we've had. So Seavers Beavers can come out in the fall. He said it will have to be fall when you can legally do anything with osprey. They will have to rent a bucket truck or a lift truck. They will come out, they will remove and relocate the osprey nest, I believe is what happens, and then it has to be cleaned a special way for it to all be on the up and up. Then we can have an electrician come out and fix the lights. There is going to be a cost to that. I have asked him to come out and give us an estimate, but he has not. He's been so covered up. I don't know if there's hawk problems everywhere right now or what wildlife is got him so tied up at the moment. But he is going to be coming to give us an estimate on the osprey removal on field 4. So that is one more cost that we will have coming, but I don't have a number to be able to give you on that yet. I am going to put another call into him to see if he can at least give me a rough estimate that I won't hold him to, just so we'll know for budgetary purposes. So I can send that out to you all as soon as I get that number from him.
When you get something from him, will you send me his contact info? So I assume by the name that they're experts in beaver dams.
I swear that guy can handle any kind of creature. Like, that's my go-to
Yeah.
for everything now.
I know
Yes.
the state park had reached out to me about an issue down there that's really causing them
Yeah.
sewer
You got Dusty with
issues.
the USDA.
Well, I sent
They-
them to Vicky and them.
Help them out.
I think maybe a little bit, but I was hoping that there was that money that was out there before that is now not, maybe. So, but yeah, they work through that, but
Yeah, I'll send you
you
his
send me his
contact.
contact information, I can at least reach out
Absolutely.
to Scott and see if they've
Yep,
got that
absolutely.
addressed.
Oh, yeah. The Hawk is, and the visitor center.
Like, I had to run in yesterday, coming straight apart.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna keep the helmet in my car, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know. It's just another glorious day. I used to think Parks and Recreation, the TV show, was so like far-fetched and made up, but it's all the way not. Like, it's all the way our life. I love it. Wouldn't trade it for the world most days, but it's all the way where we're at. So.
That is a great show.
All right, y'all got anything else for me?
Oh, y'all doing a great job.
Thank you. Don't let us sit here too long or we'll think of more stuff we want, so.
Get
It
out.
wouldn't take us long to come up with a new list.
All right,
We're not asking for anything, really. No add-ons. The back room is still leaking. It's just been leaking forever. I don't know if they'll ever get that fixed. But otherwise, we've got the semi thing for the food, and we've got the other building to store all of our other stuff, and then we got the grant for the new fencing, so we're not really needing anything besides the back room from leaking and maybe possibly a raise for the employees.
So we had True Line come out last week, and he's preparing a report on their roof. And I've got a claim number from Keiko on that. So as soon as he kind of gets a report to me, he's going to reach out to the adjuster and kind of see what we're looking at. He did say that the screws were backing out, so I don't know if that had something to do with the tornado coming that close to it or not. We did have a flap that kind of bent back, and so working on that. And I will ask for Autumn. And she did say a raise for her employees. We were looking at theirs from last year, and all of them, including Autumn and Kip, are underneath their pay scale rates. So at a minimum, the three, basically the outside of Autumn and Kip, I would recommend raising them to $12.14 an hour. That's the lowest on the pay scale on staff one. And then Autumn's been here for 10 years in July. She's at $16.48 an hour. I think she would be a department head one. I would request $19 an hour. And then Kip is assistant director, although she is putting her notice in to resign. So that conversation may be a little bit different as we talk about moving somebody else in that position. But that was just something those are just numbers thrown out there, but at a minimum, those three laborers positions need to be at $12.14 an hour, in my opinion.
Absolutely. If not a little bit more. I
What-
mean, that's hard work y'all do out
And
there.
Timmy, and 19 from what?
1648.
Okay.
Hang on. Yeah, 1648. Yeah, so department head one, the pay range is 1850 to 2775. So that would still put her at the low end of department head one, but move
2575, is that what you said?
2775
27.
is the high end, yeah.
Okay.
Anything other than the roof and hopefully maybe with the leaking, the back, maybe the roof, but anything else on your building?
Or any of your equipment or anything like that? I remember we had a conversation about a dryer, but I don't remember what
Yeah.
the conversation ended up being.
We replaced one washer and two dryers. I mean, worst case, we lose a washer. $300-400.
The donation account staying pretty, I mean, are we,
I think that the donations at first, what they're coming in, you're doing well on those still.
but you're relying more on using that to cover your
Yes.
expenses. And so the, kind of the rolling balance that's been rolling the last couple of years, it is,
Going down.
yeah, it won't be able to sustain.
Well, in that one year we used
Sustain
it.
this year as much as it last year.
Yeah.
We would,
We'll need
We're
more in our
short.
fiscal court side budget to cover the expenses.
yeah, because we're definitely using it more than before.
Yes. I'm trying to think, are any other equipment or vehicle, the vehicles, that's not a leased vehicle. They are.
They're enterprise leased. They're not on the list to refresh at this point. But I mean, as far as them working, we're pretty good on all those. And then we've got the van that we
Yeah, we don't need that.
don't really use that. Would we need to surplus it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Since we got that.
okay.
I was gonna talk to the maintenance man, what we needed to move it. It's been a while since it started up.
So it's probably not gonna bring a ton of money on surplus, I guess.
It had like a cracked head gasket, but they didn't think it was worth fixing.
So basically getting it out of the way.
Yeah, pretty much. If you want it, come get it.
Yeah. Well, at least we know that the catalytic converter's probably worth something.
I think
Those
they
are,
took that.
has someone come and got that?
That's what recycling told us that ours was gone.
Oh, okay, so someone's already,
Someone took theirs.
yes, that does not surprise me.
Our trucks don't stay there, thank God.
Yeah, right.
Hmm. That's amazing. And they can do that so fast. I mean, they're out within a few minutes. I don't even know if it takes them a few minutes, some of them, to get under there and get that. It's crazy. Anyway.
That it?
Everything on?
That's everything.
That's easy.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know where to start for sure, gentlemen, but I have, if you notice, sir, I have got the budget actually going up $298,445. With that, though, I've got projected to bring in $339,000 more in revenue for the following year. With that being said, that's about a $40,000 less that I'll be asking for this coming year than I have this year. With that, that's, if you'll notice, especially on my deputy salaries, went up quite a bit. That's with giving some raises on our, Brad,
According to the pay scale and the.
pay scale, yeah. So we
Which, yeah.
adapted the administrative code book last fall, I guess it was.
Yep.
So that's kind of adapting that in here, and Brad, we might want to sit down and, but
Yes, we do.
I think I've done a pretty good job with it, but you might want to look at it also.
Yeah, I'd asked Roger to go through his employees, and I gave him the list of the categories and to place his employees in the categories that he thinks that is appropriate. So that will shift their pay depending on how you guys want to look at that.
So,
And also in there-
so are y'all gonna sit down
Yeah,
then
yes.
and then we'll have an actual document that shows individually those, deputy jailers and or whoever
What
it is and
what
where
I'm gonna
they
do is
fit?
incorporate it in the salary schedule. So, last
Okay.
year we had the salary
Yeah.
schedule with their current rate of pay.
Okay.
Their proposed rate of pay for the
Okay.
upcoming fiscal year, and then the category that they're in,
Okay.
and whether they fall in or outside of that. So we'll look at that as a whole.
Okay. Okay, so,
Also, and Erica's actually looking up, I didn't have actually the current deputy salaries expense on those right now. So, but that's also projected to put four new hires in there also. I have got some more added on to our cleaning supplies a little bit. You know, our food, actually, I've been talking to our cooks this week. Food prices and cleaning prices, just absolutely going sky high. Hopefully if, you know, fuel comes down, because we get charged with fuel surcharge and everything else and this stuff, so. You know, I know that our food's gonna be, we're probably gonna spend all of our food money this year, but
Food price is ridiculous right now.
oh,
Like,
and
doubled, sometimes
We may
tripled.
have to add some more into the food there before we finalize this, but I'm hoping that we can get by with this. Of course, I did read an article yesterday that, you know, they're predicting the jail and prison population in Kentucky to go sky high again. You know, we had a break the last couple of years because of COVID, but I read an article yesterday that they're projecting it to go sky high. We have added more into our building and maintenance and equipment repair, and also on our equipment. You know, that's something certainly hard to project, and with all this being said, I do not have anything in here for the boiler systems. Because they actually come down about 2 weeks ago and done a walkthrough. I know that it's kind of been a drug out thing, but I can't make them come. I've talked to them several times. I do think that they're in the process of ball rolling now. So they did come down and do a walkthrough a couple weeks ago, so I hope certainly we have something before long on that. On our revenue, as I've mentioned a few times, I think I give you guys a report on this, on the House Bill 556 on our programs. We get paid for these programs now for attendance and graduation, and I think I've got projected $120,000 for next year, which I feel like could be possibly higher. We had a few COVID months this year that slowed us down on the programs, plus I've been kind of in between a instructor for our programs. I am projecting $200,000 more on our state inmates. We, of course, are getting a $4 per diem raise, and I think if we stay on track with what we have done this year as far as state inmates, I think we should bring in at least $160,000 extra dollars there. But also, like I said, I think we're going to bring in. It appears that we're going to bring in a little bit more than what we projected this year, I think.
Yeah, if your last month payment, so the June payment's the same, then you'll hit the current budget, which is 1.15. It'll be a little bit over that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going by that plus what the article I read yesterday, you know, about the population being up. I mean, if the population's up, we're talking about state inmates being up. That's kind of the, I guess, the highlight of it there.
Yeah, that's what I was, yeah. I mean, I haven't gone back and added each one of those, but just looking at that monthly report, which I think is very helpful that we get now from Joe Beth and have for several months. I would assume it's gonna be probably in the neighborhood of 75 to 100,000 maybe, over.
That's
And
kind
that
of.
Yeah, I'd say about
1.2 to
75 or 100.
1.25 is what it feels like.
I think we still should get.
So then and it's a $4. So on that HB 556, that's been a House bill that's been out there, right? That's not, is that a new?
It come in effect July the 1 of '21.
Okay, so we did not budget for that because
No.
it was not in place at that time and did not know.
We
But this
actually didn't know, I
120
think, till
is-
like August that we was getting it. Now, we thought we was gonna get it, and then all of a sudden, a check shows up. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And like I said, of course, we had a few COVID months there that we was probably slack on getting some of the inmates because we didn't want to mix the sales and stuff. And with that, the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've kind of been in between instructors, so, but hopefully I've got one back. He's kind of been working out of town quite a bit. But I think he talked like he's coming in on weekends now and doing it. But hopefully here in another couple of weeks, he said he probably should be back in town all the time. And with that, of course, Bobby Green was our instructor, and he was absolutely wonderful, but he was kind of falling down on his day job and falling down on his family life at nighttime, so he kind of had to give it up. Talking with Bobby, though, I don't know that, and especially if the population goes up like I was reading yesterday, I don't know that a full-time person there might not be a bad situation, of course. Unfortunately, we are a little bit limited on space of where we can have our programs, but I don't know that we might not be able to almost have a full-time person doing that.
So-
Especially with the paperwork and the coordination, everything that they've got to do.
So the HB 120 revenue side started, but was that simply to pay us for something that we were already doing? Is that what we're saying? So
On these programs,
yeah. So I guess my question is, it's, the revenue is there, so what line item am I looking at for the appropriation side, the expense side?
well, I don't think we actually had a line item for the revenue you're talking
Yeah,
about.
no, I'm saying for the expense line to actually do those programs.
okay.
Is that the MRT?
Yes, but also though, now we buy all the material out of commissary
Okay.
for all of our classes. So, in other words, our workbooks and stuff like that, we buy all that out of commissary.
So it's not even on here then?
Yeah.
It's
Now,
it's-
the pay for the teachers are, but I believe they probably come out of the deputy janitor's salary, I think. I think we've got a few that's coming out of there that should be other places. I think there's one of the office help might be in the deputy janitor's. I think there's,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to, figure out, is that 120 a complete net 120, or is it 120, but our expenses will go up or have gone up in this line item by this much to come out of that?
we could pull up what the expense is for, I probably do not have it here on Bobby Green. I think Bobby probably has pretty much done it this whole year up until now. I think I've only had one instructor pretty much doing it. he's just been part-time. And as I said, Bobby's actually done a wonderful job. I'm gonna say there's probably, I mean, she can tell us for sure in a minute, but I'm gonna say that certainly not over $10,000.
His gross pay, year-to-date has been 5,200. So that doesn't include like,
All right, so that, that $200,000 projected state prisoner, is simply, taking what we have and adding that $4, or did I hear that part of that 200 increase comes from the increase that we've already,
Well,
the actual,
I projected, and Brad, I don't know if this was part of what you was wanting. I know that you was wanting some inmate days. I think I projected like 40,000 inmate days for
Okay.
this fiscal year, so that would be
Times $4.
160,000, you know, and then,
okay.
and then,
The other was
the
just,
others probably, well, we're gonna bring in a little bit more this year than what we
Okay.
projected, and I do not see that falling in it.
yeah.
To be honest with you, I don't see it doing nothing but gains. But part of the deal, of course, part of the deal is on these extra employees. I mean, number one, we're understaffed. I mean, anytime I've got anybody off for anything, it's overtime. But we're understaffed, but also though, because we have taken this administrative, I mean, my people are getting a whole lot more time off than what they did. You know, we was recognizing 6 holidays where we're now at 13 and a half. And you know, the way that their vacation time rolls in and everything now, I mean, I got people off constantly. And with that, I know the other day we talked a little bit about the overtime also, you know. And I did cushion this just a little bit, probably not enough though, because we're certainly gonna have more overtime now because we're paying I'm gonna use the word double time and a half, but I guess it's time and a half for the holidays where we wasn't
And so that I remember this correctly, the medical includes Heather in there, right? Yes, she's not separate, because one time we had that was kind of double.
I think that she's out.
So that, as far as the actual contract with West Kentucky did not, have you already negotiated that? And that's
Yeah,
staying
I
the
think
same?
that he said the other day there will probably not be any kind of increase.
Okay.
And if you notice, I did add another $4,800 or more, just the cost of supplies. And, you know, Grays County's actually lost their jail, so we're actually housing several Grays County inmates right now. I do probably expect the contract with the other counties probably to be quite a bit higher next year. I think that we exceeded already what we had budgeted for this year. So I do probably see it going higher, but I didn't want to get it too far up there because of not knowing what state population's going to do either, you know. And with that, I've done talked to Grays County a little bit. We're certainly going to have to raise the per diem up for those people over there. And I think that they very well expect it, especially if we've got the per diem up on our state.
Right.
So we're certainly going to go up on them also.
So are they just, I mean, us, McCracken, Callaway, everybody's taking their inmates at this point?
They're actually having to go as far as Litchfield.
Oh, really? What about any impact from the program that you mentioned just here in the last couple weeks or something with?
Vocational.
Yeah, vocational. Does that have any impact on the budget?
No, actually, the way that they've got the time scheduled has really, really helped us. Actually, now then, with that, the next program could be different as far as the times and the days, but right now, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with 2 Saturdays. It's a 4-week program. So there was 2 Saturdays they had to add in, but with Callaway helping us, it's working great because what we're doing, Callaway's bringing them to us at roughly 1:30 in the afternoon. We got to have them there at 2. Our shift changes at 2:45, so there's no overtime involved. You know, I'm a little short-handed there for roughly, an hour or so, but and then Callaway is picking them up in the afternoons. The program's from 2 to 5, so they pick them up in the afternoon, drop ours off, and it's actually worked wonderful. And actually, Mr. Arnie Puckett in Paducah, I mean, he's working on getting us reimbursed for actually the time and travel it is costing us. I don't want to guarantee that, but I think that possibly could happen also. But with that, we've been very fortunate that Callaway has partnered with us and helping us out there. Like I said, it's absolutely working wonderful right now. And as I said, when they start up a electrical program, welding program, it could be different days and different hours then, and if it's, if for some reason it threw in there a 4 to 6 or 4 to 7, then we might run into little problems. But these people down at McCracken, they've even got some of these large companies that are trying to work with us on even supplying the ride for us and everything. So still a little growing there, but everything's working great right now.
What particular barge companies are they working with?
I know that Western Rivers, and I also know that maintenance company down there that's really big.
James Marine. James Marine.
James Marine's one of them, and then there's like I said, some.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Just right there when you get into on the south side.
But they've been big on this program also. And right before I come up here, I actually got a call from a small company here in Benton that said, hey, you got guys getting out of jail, we need help. And if we want them to show up. That's the biggest thing. We'll teach them what to do. So, that'll be a big plus for us. And I think it's a company that I don't want to call the name because I don't know for sure what's going on, but I think that they're going to expand a little bit. And it's a small, individually owned company, but they need help.
question I've been asking everybody else. You're, in your building all the time. What do you foresee, maybe not this coming fiscal year, but the future? Obviously the boilers. But then you also have a ton of kitchen equipment, I know, and then, I'm sure there's a lot of wear and tear on just the building itself, because people are in there all the time. People who maybe probably don't care about making sure the building stays in working order. So
Well,
what do you?
Of course, like I said, our biggest issue right now is the boilers. We got mainly all new kitchen equipment a couple years ago, I guess, something like that. So our kitchen's pretty good shape right now. Now, our units are, you know, of course, they've all been replaced, but, you know, again, the building is 30 years old, so, you know, I can't honestly tell you exactly how long that they've been changed, but I'm gonna say 10 years anyway. You know, we had to have water leak the other day, which that was doing outside out there. Other than that, I mean, it's kind of hard to project a lot of it, but, you know, our control system itself is roughly about 10 years old. You know, but we've had no problem out of it. The other system, you know, lasted roughly 20 years. That's not to say that it won't go up today, but we've had very, very little problems out of it. You know, washer and dryers are getting some age on them, but I have got a little money put in here that, you know, if they go out, as long as they don't all go out at one time, we should be okay. They're getting some age on them, they're industrial type washer and dryers. Other than that, other than just normal wear and tear on things, I mean, you know, I don't see much happening.
All right, so she's asked hers, so the retirement, anybody potentially retiring within
I have
this
got,
budget?
I have got two that I believe are real close to having their time in. I know one, she has told me she's not planning on going anywhere. The other one, hasn't given me exact, but I do probably look at him possibly retiring. Other than that, I think that we're probably a year or two away from anyone else. You know, that's part of this pay. I mean, you know, we've got young people there that at $13 an hour, they're not going to stay there. Just not going to. And what I've kind of done, I've got these guys that are $13 and $13.20, something like that. I'm trying to get them up to at least 15, because they have been there for a little bit and do have some experience and some training and stuff already. So, you know, actually a new hire, I'd like to bump them up to 14, and, you know, maybe within a year or after they get their training in, go to 15 with them. You know, I think I've seen it, you know, they can kind of, over at the penitentiary now, I seen something come up the other day where they were talking about paying over $20 an hour, but, you know, that, I'm sure that's probably with some qualifications and stuff. You know how they do, you know, starting to pay up to.
Thanks,
Thank you,
sir.
guys.
All right, we can take yours.
All right. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How we doing today?
Good.
Good. I guess I don't know where to start today. Not a lot changed. You want me to just go over basically everything we got in here? We've asked, I say we, Office of Emergency Management has requested a salary increase of 10%. Got obviously an increase in prices across the board on everything this year with inflation is just going nuts and most of us are getting left behind. I mean, I know everybody knows how that feels. So we've asked for 10% to combat that. Myself and Darlene have both been here, well, I've been here 2 years now, she's been here almost 15, so we've got a decent amount of experience.
Is that on? Sorry.
Is it? Oh, yes, ma'am, I can do that for you. I apologize. And after, obviously, the tornado, I feel we have, shown our capabilities as a department, how we can handle ourselves, and that we do have what it takes to keep the county safe and plan accordingly. We've upgraded plans across the board that have been left sitting on shelves and haven't been seen or touched since 2008, actually, on some of them. And then we've actually added 4 tornado sirens since I've been here, and all of them are now in functioning order. So anybody hears a tornado siren that didn't used to, there's a reason for that. We have done a lot to make sure those function properly. We've upgraded the equipment on them. So that's basically what we've done since I've been here. Like I said, there's several plans. We've upgraded, and the tornado sirens are the big things. Among other little things we've gone out in the community, done, talked to the schools, helped plan with the library. Last year, they requested our office come out and do some planning and help them figure out what places in their buildings would be safest and how to evacuate properly and things of that nature. So that would be the salary increase request. Then we've actually got the disaster expense, which is line 42-100. We've asked, or I've set it as a reduction from 2,000. I set it to 1,000 this year. We didn't use as much as anticipated. It was a new line, and I set it 2,000 as just a general idea of where we hit. We didn't quite spend what I expected. We're spending, I think we're sitting about 200 or 300 that we've used. I think 1,000 would cover anything like we had this year. The tornado is a different experience. We had food thrown at us. I think we had more food than we know what to do with most days. So in a situation like that, it's helpful. Smaller situations, events, let's say like the drowning from 2 years ago, something like that we typically would have to provide our own food for, so that would be what it's used for. And 1,000 should hit that. If we go over it, we'll reassess later. Then I've got 57,400, safety supplies and training. I've proposed an increase of $1,500, which would bring that total up to 4,500. This is simply to cover the addition of Jeremy Wallace to our staff as a deputy last year, or in September of last year. We do training, we have to send him places, and that increase basically covers his expenses that he incurs, the per diem, travel. We've got another section for travel that covers it too, but if we're going specifically for training, that's where most of the money comes out of. Next one is 57,600, which is travel. Proposed a $1,250 increase, so it's doubled from 2,500. This is offset because of the inflation, obviously. Hotels are more expensive, gas is more expensive for those that we have to pay for fuel. And then the conference price is included in the travel. That's our yearly Kentucky Emergency Services Conference, and that would include covering Jeremy as well in that cost, so that's why that's gone up. 57,800 is utilities. There's no change at the 3,000. I also have office supplies. I skipped that one. I'm sorry. 4,450. That's at 2,000. I didn't request a change in that either. 58,500 is maintenance. I requested that we increase that line from, it was at 1,400. I wanted to get, or requested it to go to 21,500. That's a $7,500 increase. We would take that money from the current line 59,500, which is generator maintenance at 15,000. We just cut it in half because that's about what we're going to use next year on that. And I figure we take the money out of generator maintenance, we'll just put it in the general maintenance line. That way we can use it for any maintenance purposes. It'll also cover any maintenance on the sirens. We're still replacing the boards on those sirens, the control units and radios as they fail, as they are 20 years old. So they do need to be replaced. So that really isn't a change in the budget. That's just, or that's not an increase or anything. It's just moving some from a different line for next year. 72,500 would be equipment. It's just our sign contract for Sirens for Cities. It's $4,500. That's no change. Then I've got a few lines, new lines I've added. One would be a grant match line. Through Laurel, we've requested or put in for a grant for a star system and, 4 new sirens that would go along with that system. That would be a countywide alert system that runs off the National Weather Service polygon. So you wouldn't be setting off all sirens at once. It's simply whichever siren happens to fall in that warning polygon. And that goes with those 4 sirens. And the grant match would be $14,033.51. So that would be a new line for that specific use. The next one I've got is clothing, asking for $1,000. I would obviously we'd cut that disaster expense by $1,000, so I figured we could move it to that line. This would cover roughly $330 a person in the office. And basically, we'd get us shirts like the one I have on, so we're easily identified on scene, so we don't, or when we're going house to house and damage assessment, so we don't look like we're just some random guy asking for your personal information or asking about your business in your house. It also covers any damages to clothing, boots and pants. Jeremy was out on the wreck in February and got covered in diesel and cow blood, so it's one of those, it's just part of the job. You're going to get things destroyed, and it'd be nice to be able to replace them, not out of pocket, since in his case, he's volunteering for the county. And my last one would be a new line for the IAEM. It's the International Association of Emergency Managers. It's a membership and a conference fee. They offer training from FEMA, TEACS, if anybody's familiar with them. It's Texas A&M's Emergency Response Training Group. They go across the country, but they also go to this international conference and train EMs at state and higher levels on how to do their job and how better to do their job and do it. They bring new technology to us and show us where the field's going and how to be better prepared for any event and eventuality. That also helps broaden our office's networking capabilities. As we go to our conference here in the state, we meet state EMs for Kentucky. This conference would be nationwide as well as Canada and Mexico, so you'd be widening that net and you'd be getting experiences from every background, and it would help in situations. We've got earthquake, you'd be meeting with people from California, so they'd be able to better prepare you for earthquakes. So, not that we get hurricanes, but you get information from people in Florida and stuff of that nature. That way, we actually can bring in all of that information, and the office itself gets a chance to see all those different backgrounds and pull from more experience than we already can. So that's the big point of that. But that $3,500 would cover the membership and the conference, which usually falls in November, I'm sorry. And that covers hotel and all the fees associated with the conference. And that would be it that I've got on there.
Do you have copies for us, or is that your only copy?
I could make some real quick.
Okay.
That was my mistake. I meant to bring extras.
Yeah.
And I forgot to bring them.
Yeah, if you could get us copies, because I was trying to make notes and I'm feverishly and I can't, so.
I understand.
Yeah.
I apologize for that.
That's all right.
Anything else I can elaborate on for y'all? Got questions?
We appreciate it.
problem.
I'll make
Okay.
those copies, I'll bring them back up.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, we're still an hour before the scheduled lunch. Do you want to take lunch early, or do you want me to call and see if Casey or somebody can come?
Let me do this real quick while we're still talking about it, so she had paused. But there's a couple things that either the road and the park didn't bring up that they did bring up when they sat down with me and Judge and Erica. The road department had asked where we are with a cost of living adjustment, if that had been discussed. And then as far as the park goes, Brittany did ask if we could reevaluate her salary. She is currently, so she's currently at $54,358.51. And that includes her role as in the judge's office for public relations. So according to her department head 3, she is within range of her salary, so she's in there. But I just wanted to make a note that she did ask to reevaluate.
What's the range?
Department head 3 range is, where's my sheet? Okay, it's gone. Hang on. Department head 3 range is, I listed her salary, her hour, or annual salary. Do you want any other annual salary range?
Yes.
Okay. It is $44,692.25. That's the minimum. And the maximum is $69,896.24. But I was just making,
But that amount that you gave us, though, was specific, was adding.
it's including the public relations
Which
part.
is what? 28, huh?
It is $4,100 of the total,
Of the 50,
of the 58.
58?
Yeah, yep. I'm sorry, did I say 58?
Oh.
Yeah, 54, I'm sorry,
what I
54,
thought.
358 is her current.
So 50.
Yeah,
Is-
roughly 50, yes, correct. So yeah, even taking that away, it's still, she's still within range, but I was just making notes of things that, I mean, sometimes that's a difficult conversation to bring up about yourself, but I did want to make it known she did bring it up with us,
Yeah.
so.
If you want to go over this, we'll just go ahead and get started.
Basically, I updated things based upon more of the, we had another month since our last meeting, so I put that into the calculation as far as receipts forecasted and budgeted ahead, so. Based upon past 6 years is where the budgeted receipts for next year come from. Is where that's come, I did a min and max average of all 5 years to come up with that. So that way we take out some of the high and low outliers. The true average of them were significantly higher.
Okay, so, get my bearings here. So the forecast receipts FY 21, 22 are based on actual with another couple months to go? Right. Okay,
I flushed out the last couple months using averages from the past years to fill in the blanks for the 2 months.
Okay. And then the budgeted is, of course, what we had budgeted. And so, and then the budgeted receipts for FY 22, 23. Closer to what we had. Is this the budget from, or that the board has already approved also, or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
This is the one you'll present to the board as well?
Yeah,
whenever?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So the board hasn't seen
The chairman of the board has.
this? Chair, the full board has. That's correct. Well, you could put in the clerk
Okay.
report.
This is always the tricky part.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure, they're
They
gonna
could-
wait for direction from y'all.
yeah, because if he took it to his board and it got approved, well, he would have to bring it here to get it
Yeah.
approved, and then have to go take it back, because, I don't know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it would probably be best to have it solidified through you all first, and then take it back, because they really can't not approve that.
Right, right.
So for the current year, in the prior years, we had split Casey's pay between the general fund lines and GIS and this fund. And for the current year we're in, we did not do that. Instead, what was left in the budget, we have in there as building inspection administration, and that's to recoup back to the general fund some of the cost of Casey. He's not split anymore, he's completely in the general fund. So that's the way this looks again, that's the way you've presented it, is there's not a portion of any of his pay coming out of the building inspection. And so that's kind of something to keep in mind and consider as well, because I'm under the impression that
I did
this
put
is.
it back in there after our meeting. You had that in there, I did not. So I put the 42.7 is what you had. Budget. I'm sorry, that's the reserve. 27.3.
27.3. So, we were able to recoup 27.3 out of the building inspection to pay towards what Casey costs as an employee, and his total cost as an employee currently without any, COLA, if you guys decide to go that direction, is $81,567. But as far as the way your time is divided, it's still, your time is building inspection.
Okay, let me go back let me try to parse through what you just said there.
You want me to say it again? You want me to say it?
No, I
Try to
don't.
say it in a better way?
No. No.
Less confusing way?
So we are not asking for a change. We talked about changing it and then we didn't. Is that what you're
I mean, it's
saying?
been
I can't
changed from what it was
remember.
in prior years. In prior years, he was a 60-40 split, 40%
Right.
of pay was building inspection. And so then the current year we are in, the building inspection budget couldn't sustain that. So we just.
We took
what
it all
was-
out.
Basically what was left to try to cover some of our cost of Casey. And so as far as this coming year or future years, I don't know what's going on with Casey's pay. I know that there's some inspector training going on, but, as it is, it can't sustain the full-time person who it's taking. It is taking a full-time person to do, and it can't pay for it, so.
What did we do last year refresh my memory here. We did something that the board did not, you know, maybe they
Well, they had, for
weren't
a few
really-
years, they had been carrying a little bit of a reserve.
Right.
And so we made the budget, we started to make the budget as if it was gonna use the reserve
Yeah,
and to sustain itself, which it's not technically a reserve when we're paying for the full-time employee,
Right.
right?
yeah.
So, I think that was where the little conflict came in, like how they wanted to handle that. I know I did some calculations for you because the revenue of this account is what we get in permit fees. And so, if this was to be truly self-sustaining, then for us to cover a full-time staff member who is $81,500 worth of cost, we would need to be keeping more like 31 or 32% of our licenses, not the 20 that we keep. For this to actually be a self-sustaining,
Yeah,
Fine.
and again,
long-term.
it comes down to, if I don't think that it's any different than it was last year. It comes down to the difference in commercial and residential. And if we do more residential versus commercial, we're not going to be able to pay it. But if we have more commercial and the larger figures versus residential, it could.
And when I did that
Sustain
quick
itself.
calculation of we need to keep about 31%, I did over the whole. I did not look
Yes.
at individual
Agreed.
types of permits.
Yeah, I understand, yeah. But that is the key, the key years where this fund has been able to pay for itself is in big commercial years, not,
Right. That and, I
Residential.
mean, employee costs go up
It's high,
retirement goes up,
high
COLA,
electrical.
we have COLA.
It's high electrical, not commercial. It's going to be commercial electrical, that's the high amount, but it's the electrical.
of the commercial, yeah.
And that 32% that we need to keep, I mean, that's gonna change based on that, based on employee costs, based on costs for the office to run, supplies, or whatever other things that the office needs to run. It might be something that needs to be reevaluated yearly, is based on last year about how much did we need to break even.
But for example, as far as residential, we don't pay Randy 80%. You know, it's not 80/20 the way the other inspector is. It's, his is based on hourly.
Right.
So, and currently, if you did compare it on the 80/20, he is paid less than 80%. He's paid over $10,000 less than 80% of the fees collected. So he's brought in, as far as fees were, $68,510 to date. His pays totals $44,700. So that difference then goes to offset the cost of everything else.
There have been I guess, you know, always have to get this and then do my thought process and forecast and all that kind of stuff. But there's some break-even point there to me, it seems, and I don't know what it is exactly, where that residential is at or above the 80/20 versus the, You know what I mean? I mean, it's obviously not
just hard to
68,000
know,
when
to
it,
predict what's
now that
gonna
it's,
happen.
yes, now that it's above that, you know, that 52.2 that we would have projected probably would have worked out maybe to where it was worse for us. But because it went above that 52.2, we're ending up in a better position.
And we did last year as well.
Last year was like 60, a little under 61,000.
Yeah.
And that would have been, that was better than a 80-20
Yes.
split.
And that was where,
So
I
it's,
think by his contract, he was supposed to be paid the difference, but that's when he notified y'all that he would like to keep that to the account just for
yeah.
rainy day fund or something.
Yeah, I think on that, I don't know, what was the final, I'm trying to remember the final decision on that. I think there were some issues that can be.
I kind of vaguely remember this conversation.
Yeah.
Remind me the specifics again.
Banking,
He should have been paid out, but he said he would rather wait and see.
He would rather keep it in the fund just in case there was an issue, the funds would need it.
Per contract, we need to pay it out. I mean, that's money we owe him. We can't just I couldn't keep your payroll just in case, you know?
yeah, I remember,
That's been a year ago.
yeah.
I don't do that stuff for him.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was something he said, you know, I think he said, hey, you know, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, I know we talked about it, it was something, it was an issue of holding on to it when we're contracted to pay it out.
Not only that, but I can't track it across years. So if there's
But-
money we owe him, we need to pay it now.
But within that though, and I don't know, I don't remember this, but is he doing that thinking that that fund would be depleted if it was worse than a 80-20? Are we protected in that contract for a year when it's worse than 80-20?
I have not read the contract.
I can't remember,
No,
but you know what I'm
it's-
saying? I mean, is that a,
No, this is a moving target, I think, each year. That's the environment that we're in.
yeah.
That was the first year that there was ever, you know, where he would have received monies. Normally, the difference was somewhere between $2,000 to $4,000 not paying for itself. And then last year was the first time that, you know, it was a lot of construction going on. It was like $4,000, I think. It was over the 8%.
But I'm saying, so our contract only protects him.
I don't know if it's protecting him or incentivizing. They brought in more fees than what he was paid hourly.
Well, it's not a, if it doesn't happen, it's not an incentive if we don't take the money from him. Am I right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, like,
I mean, I guess
If
the
it's
incentive
above that-
is to be more efficient and have less hours worked.
do what now?
I said, I guess the incentive would be to be more efficient and have less hours worked, and that way, then the contractors pay out.
True, but if we're paying it regardless, and this is not, I'm not, let's take Randy as the inspector out of this. Let's say whoever is that residential. If it's,
That was his contract.
yeah,
That was his working contract. And it was the first time it ever actually happened where it was over.
yeah. Just a thought. This is a tough one. Last year, it was the same thing. We've had this discussion. We said we're gonna have it during the budget. You've presented it, and I still need to, it's it drives me crazy that I cannot sit here and be able to figure out how to make this work. And I guess in the scheme of things, there's obviously departments that we have that you cannot make. I mean, you know, we talk about this out in the community all the time, that, I mean, not every department brings in what they spend, obviously. And that's why we have, you know, general fund.
That's why we were planning ahead for, you know, solution in years to come. What's the best way for this to work is to have full-time and that kind of thing. That would cut down on the amount of contracts you're having to negotiate and do. It's not a quick fix, it's a transition. It's the only way to do it, so you kind of carry the extra burden for a year or so until things eventually smooth out, and then you can tweak. But there's no one around that does this the way we do it. Everybody else, they're all full-time employees. Paducah has over a dozen. McCracken County has, I don't know, 2 or 3 with the staff. Murray, just the city, has 2. So, I mean, Fulton, they have 1, just the city itself. And none of them sustain themselves with the fees.
That was what I was going to ask. This is a department that I have not actually, unlike others, have called other counties to be able to say, okay, what do you have? So you know that already, and I mean, I can make those calls too, but that all of those are subsidized.
They're folded, because this is countywide, most of the other ones are folded into cities. And they do zoning, you know, as part of that. Paducah is with their fire department, fire safety.
As far as local jurisdiction, when you get outside of the cities.
We're it.
This, when you come to the west side of the state, I don't know about central. Yeah.
Well,
In the state's fees, which are the ones that we've adopted, their fee schedule, they are only able to sustain their department by a collection of plumbing, HVAC, electrical, building, the licenses from all of those professions, the permit fees. That's how they generate enough income. And they are faced with this problem right now because they've been doing it longer. They don't have enough people. There's one inspector for just about everything west of the river, and he can't do it all. So, and he doesn't have, you know, he has a lot of stuff, but he doesn't have the amount that we have because he doesn't have to mess with the smaller things. And if they have that amount of, if they have that trouble and they can't get people in to fill those vacancies, they're faced with the same issues.
well, I mean, I think this is one of those departments where, you know, the way I still, the concept is correct to me. Like, I mean, I feel like it's necessary for our county. I think it's a whether the citizens of our county actually understand that it is a good thing for us to have this. That's kind of hard to explain to them when they're having to have those inspections, but it's so much better than the alternative of, like you said, waiting on a, you know, I know when we were involved in a commercial project outside of this county, not, one that did not have local jurisdiction, it was a long-term project just to get it started. And in times like these, that's not good because you could have a huge increase from the time you started to the time that you're waiting on that permit. So But man, I wish I could figure out a way to financially make it fit that. And
When
I'm
it-
trying to fit a square peg.
Around,
Yeah.
oh,
Erica, why don't you figure this out?
well, we do have, I mean,
Okay, tell
we
me
now-
tell me how many fees, permits we're gonna issue this coming year, and I'll
you
figure it
gonna
out.
figure it out.
It's part of your task.
Approximately,
But, no, we'll talk a little bit more in detail on this, as far as some options, because there's no easy way to.
no. No, but
do
I
this.
agree, the transition it needs to be a transition, and it need to figure that out.
Yep. All right. Anything else for Casey?
So we have no guidance to put forth to the board, no changes or anything like that?
We're not making any decisions
Not there
today.
yet.
Yep. Yeah.
We're just listening to the issues today, the needs, wants, and issues.
Yeah. We hope to have something, next week, maybe.
All right. Well, I would like to be included in any of the conversations or any questions you have. I'm willing to sit down and spitball. It's a lot easier to kind of discuss things instead of finding out after the fact.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
you.
Casey.
All right, so where do you want to start? Pretty good spot. Otherwise, we get lost. All right, so if you guys just look at this spreadsheet that I just pulled up real quick. This was that fiscal year 21-22, that was our budget for this year. Current balance is what we have remaining in there. So some of this stuff, the fiscal year 22-23 is not in addition to what's remaining. That's assuming we don't spend it and we can roll it over. As you guys know, with everything around COVID, supply chains are tight. So a lot of this money that we had planned on budgeting and spending, the stuff's just not available. I mean, we're looking at some of this stuff's 9 months back ordered, so we haven't been able to spend that. So really, if we can just carry that amount over, that satisfies the majority of our budget needs. And in fact, we're really asking for quite a bit less this year than we have previously. The only thing that really is different in this, you'll notice the computer software maintenance line goes up. We just have some maintenance agreements that are coming due this year. We always try to sign those up under, like for example, our antivirus. We try to do that on a 3-year term because it's less expensive if we do a 3-year versus a 1-year. So we're just coming up on that cycle where we've got more of them coming up. So that's why there's an increase in that computer software maintenance line. The other one that could potentially be impacted, we would like to change our IT support contract, the software that we're using for that. And that's really not a support contract, that's just the tool set that we use. We would like to move that to a different vendor for a couple different reasons. For one, it allows us better remote access. It allows us more control over which vendors do have access and when they have access and what they actually have access to. And then the other big rock in that is that anything that has to do with CJIS data, criminal justice information, has to be FIPS 140-2, not just compliant, but certified. And this solution that we're looking to go to is certified. Now, it's an upfront cost of about $30,000, but it ends up being less expensive per year. It's about half the costs ongoing, so we're looking at, a 5-year recovery cost for those upfront costs, and then we're beneficial. But it's just a better solution for what we needed to do overall.
So when you say current balance, that means current available still, right?
Correct, yeah.
So like,
Those are unencumbered
right, so
dollars from our budget.
communications equipment, you've used $250 of it, is what
Correct.
you're saying, right?
Correct.
Okay, I got you, all right.
Yeah, that's what's remaining out of our fiscal year budget.
And those, so like the servers, that won't be an expense that happens between now and the end of the year?
Doubtful.
Okay.
I mean, it would be great if it would be, but it probably will not be.
This was
though.
something that we foresaw,
Yeah, we've been.
seen in this year and then can't get it.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's still a need, it's just gonna be a need in
Right. It's just
23
yeah.
when we can get it. Or
To
hopefully.
say that we would be able to get it by the end of the fiscal year would probably be pushing it. So I think it's probably prudent to say, let's just look and move that into next fiscal year.
Okay.
And then that way we know the money's there, it's budgeted, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, okay.
The only other thing on here that I forgot to mention is the travel budget, is we would like to have some, we put our travel budget, that's primarily travel and training for us. I serve on the KOHS Cybersecurity Grant Board, so there is some travel occasionally with that stuff, but primarily that's travel and training for us. And, I mean, the stuff that we deal with, if you're 6 months, heaven forbid, a year and a half behind, you don't know what's going on. So training's a big one for us. And we haven't had that in our budget the last 2 years.
One other thing that we talked about that Andy's not going to talk about is pay raises. He gave some literature to us that he had broken out. I don't know if you got a copy of that. I'll let you explain that to him.
Thank you.
So you've got two different, yeah, okay. You've got two different pages here. This is primarily, these are the primary job categories that what we do falls into. These are all the different hats that we wear, more or less. This data is compiled relative to Hopkinsville, Kentucky. It's the closest municipality, or closest, I don't even want to call it a municipality, I guess, but the closest center that we could get that gave some data on it. Now, these are not necessarily saying, hey, each one of these jobs is available within Hopkinsville. It's just taking what those national averages are and applying a compensating percentage to what Hopkinsville would be across the rate. So now in each one of these, you'll see across it's 10, 25, 50, 75, and 90. That's the percentile for that job category with each of these years of experience. So what we did, and this is looking for two, so the second page is for me. This is based upon my salary. Any of those green cells is where my salary is at or above that percentage and years of experience. Anything that's yellow is higher than what I am. So if you look at these, if you just look at the average percentile, the 50th percentile, none of these job codes over 4 years, or I should say, my current salary is at or below every one of these job codes at 4 years or less. And I've been doing this for 15 years, so. This is one of those things I've never really brought up before. It's one of those things I just feel, with the skill set I have and what I can offer, it's one of the things that I can offer in my community. But it is, I ran the numbers against inflation, and I make less money now than when I did based off on inflation, not even counting the current inflation. Like, as of a year ago, I make less money based on inflation than I did when I got hired in 2007.
So the second page is you, the first page is?
Is Chad, the person we just hired last. And then if you look at the very bottom, the last two lines there, this is just as of recently. So the Marshall County Board of Education, the very last line, Marshall County Board of Education was recently hiring a computer maintenance technician. You know, a lot of times the job categories, they don't necessarily put the salary range. These were ones where I could actually find a specific salary range. So that's
more or less relative to what Chad is currently doing, although this is an entry-level position on what the Board of Education was hiring for. And then recently, City of Paducah was hiring a technology director, and there again, you can see the salary range that they listed for what they're currently see as a competitive salary. And on that front page, you'll notice those green cells. That's the same thing with Chad. The green cells are where his salary is meets or above. The yellow cells are where he is below.
Okay, tell me the percentages again. I'm not. The 10,
On this
25,
spread-
50, 75.
Yeah,
and
those are
90, what?
percentiles. So essentially, let's just take, for example, the very top line there, that GIS Technician Analyst 1. In Hopkinsville, if you had 0 to 2 years of experience and you were in the 50th percentile, then your salary would be at $52,890.
But what puts you in the 50th percentile? That's what I'm not
That's the 50th
understanding.
percentile of pay rates. So if your current salary was $52,890, you'd be in the 50th percentile of people in that job
Nationally.
position.
Nationally.
Yes, but adjusted for Hopkinsville. Does that make sense? Yeah, all of these numbers are national numbers that you can adjust for localities based upon cost of living and everything else. Does that answer your question? I mean, it's hard to
answers
say.
my question, whether I can, I'm trying to understand. I mean, people do they hire based on that percentage, I guess, is my question. I don't.
This is not based upon hiring, this is based upon current payroll data.
Okay.
So this isn't hiring, this is actualities, this is what actually people are, but these numbers are adjusted. So I guess, yeah, you could say that 10, 25, 50, 75, 90, those are national numbers, but on this spreadsheet, they're adjusted regionally.
And these are and this would be the city. Now, let me ask you this. Do you know if like, the city of Hopkinsville, if we're using them as an example, do they have, we don't know that they have these increases throughout that time, though. Right, you know what I'm saying? Like if.
No, I don't follow.
So if you hire in at the 52,890.
Okay.
And then you've been there for 2 years, it does not necessarily mean that you're gonna make 58,590. These are.
In Hopkinsville, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, here again, this is actual payroll data. So nationally, somebody that's in the 50th percentile that's worked, for just say 5 years, it falls within that 4 to 7 years.
Yeah.
Nationally, if you're in the 50th percentile, your average is $71,590. And that's across all the payroll data for people in those job codes for that amount of time.
Yep.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. And like I said, it's a little bit confusing because, to put Hopkinsville in there, like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that each one of these jobs are available in Hopkinsville. That's just trying to put some kind of an adjustment percentage on there for regional things. But if you really wanted to look at these things more accurately, technology-based jobs are probably not regional as much, nearly as much as they were 3 years ago, prior to COVID. I mean, just about, I would say, 75% or up of the job postings that I see, either that get sent to me through LinkedIn or anything else, are 100% remote.
Yeah.
So when we compete with a job market,
Yeah.
if you're competing with a job market for somebody to,
Anybody.
for technology jobs, you're competing with across the United States.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, you're going to, at some point, send us or do we just go off of last year's? I guess we could just go off last year's.
Yeah, you mean the salary schedule?
Yeah. Or if you have it.
I mean, I've got one, I'm working through it as we talk about it. The only ones that I've really changed amounts were for the ones that I requested for the animal control. And I've highlighted them, so I know I've changed them. But yeah, I can send you,
Yeah, because, if we're looking at last year's, I mean, not specific to Andy, obviously, but everybody as a whole, there have been so many changes from the last one we would have got that for the last budget.
Right. So yeah, I'll update that one, and if I do make any, requested changes, I'll highlight them so you know that
So
they're
we
there.
know that
But
it's not actual.
yes, it's
requested.
what's requested,
Okay.
right.
All right. Well, I can wait and get that. Because of this on the current appropriations budget that we have, that is Andy, Chad, and then part of
Sandra too.
So just go ahead and give me Andy's then, since we're talking about it.
Sure.
So I
Andy's-
know where within this we're talking about.
So he's currently, salary is $61,321.37. His classification is a little bit, I don't think it falls into Department Head 1, but only because he's only managing 2.5 people. But his budgetary responsibility is much more than a Department Head 1 because his budget kind of spans the entire county. So I would say he probably falls more aligned in the 2 to 3 range just because of the scope of his responsibilities.
Versus employees managed.
Yeah, right, versus employees managed, right. Yeah. It's hard to pin, well, he's only doing IT work. Well, he's doing IT work for the entire county, so that's different.
What is that?
So, Department Head 2, I'll give you both ranges.
Okay.
Because I'd like some guidance on this too. I don't want to be the sole purpose to, categorize somebody, especially a department head. I think department heads would be responsible for categorizing their own staff, and then, I'll give guidance on categories and department heads with your all's guidance too. So Department Head 2 is range for $40,748.20 on the low end. And the high end is $61,143.39.
That's one, not two.
That's two.
That's two?
Yeah, do you want to know what one is? Okay.
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean,
He's over.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He's over the two, so
Yeah. And then 3 is $44,692.25. And the maximum is $69,896.24. And I'll go ahead and email you guys this document that I'm reading off of so you guys can see it.
Okay.
It breaks it down into the categories and then the pay ranges, but it also has definitions on one of them, so you can kind of see how each employee is categorized and why.
And I would probably argue that the office that we fall into probably doesn't fall, at least the criteria that we use to determine where we fall into those probably doesn't necessarily apply, because primarily we're looking at budget and number of people that we supervise. Well, the more we do and the better we do our jobs, the fewer people we supervise, because we do more of the work automated. And I mean, not to pat myself on the back, but we're probably one of the few offices that we have consistently saved the county money. Just like, for example, and I asked this question to Brad, how those job codes are categorized, what's the criteria for them? And we talked about the budget. And I was like, well, I'm almost shooting myself in the foot, because, for example, when we replaced our phone system, we did that whole project for about $5,000. Well, all of the quotes that we had to have somebody come in and do that was right between $1,000 to $1,200 per handset. Well, we have over 100 handsets. So you're talking a project that could have potentially cost, $120,000 to $150,000, and then probably, 20 to 30% of that a year in maintenance costs, we did for $5,000.
Yeah.
So, it's
about-
in my best interest to not do what's in the best interest of the county.
Valid point.
Can you break down, because you do more than just the county, can you break down a percentage as far as the cities or other agencies outside the county that you,
As far as time-wise, or what do you mean?
as far as work? Because I'm sitting here, and this is something I didn't realize to ask, but sitting here when we're looking at this, are these positions working for one entity? Because your office is unique. You're actually performing work for other cities in the county.
We do GIS work for the other cities, yeah.
And then
the water
y'all get
departments.
reimbursed? Or
Well,
is there a
it
fee?
goes
or-
into goes into the general fund, but
What, do we know what that is?
You bill a flat $6,000 a week?
it's right around $40,000, I think, plus or minus. I'd have to.
Is it's $6,000 a week, so, right?
Yes.
And how do you base that? Like, how do you decide what to pay them? How much work are you putting, like, how do you?
That is based upon.
How to build it?
Yeah, that's based upon access to all of our data, and that is based at that $6,000 range. That is, they can use us for one day a month for whatever they need. If they need us to go out and do field work and GPS things for them, if they need us to do maintenance work on their server, like, for example, North Marshall Water runs a full ArcGIS server that they use that backs their maintenance and asset management system. If they need us to go in and do maintenance on that, whether it's update security certificates, whatever it would be, essentially one day a month that we do that.
And they do a contract, an annual contract on that?
Mhm.
They just pay it one time
Yes.
a year?
Yeah.
So Calvert, Benton, North Marshall,
Calvert, Benton, North Marshall, yeah.
those three. What can't be 6,000?
Well, you're only budgeted to get like 24,000. It used to be a higher amount, but we stopped
Yeah,
getting
because we
amounts from
adjusted
people.
some of it.
Because I vaguely remember us having this conversation last year.
Well, yeah, Calvert City is a little bit different because they split up their water and sewer a little bit different than
Oh.
Benton does. Water and sewer, probably.
Okay, so that would be 24.
So 24, yeah. I was way off on my number, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was thinking, I don't think 6,000
Well,
goes into 40. But
Yeah,
I'm gonna
well,
let you-
we used to, at one point in time, we had a similar arrangement with 911, just, gosh, this goes back a long time ago. And then at some point in time, the auditors were like, why are you taking money out of one pocket and
Just
putting it in
pay
the
it,
other?
yeah.
So we've changed some of that stuff around.
So I guess the question is, if we were to change payroll, does it change contract?
There's nothing currently that would trigger that. However, that would probably be something we should probably look at. Well, and one of the things in our software maintenance is we have an enterprise agreement with ESRI, who's the software that we use for our GIS stuff, that 911's GIS stuff is based upon all those. We just have an enterprise license for that, and that has gone up this year, so that's something we need to readdress anyway.
Are those contracts with your office?
That the counties, that the other
entities?
No, it would be with the county.
Do what?
I could probably look and find out. It's been
Just automatically renewable unless notified.
essentially, yeah.
Not something we get done, we do annually, I guess.
We don't have to find them now. I can't remember. I'm not saying I haven't, but I just can't remember seeing them. I know we've talked about it in previous years, but something to look at. While we're looking at the pay for Andy's department, something to take into consideration. Because as we're seeing, there's a lot of demand from the county that cost sharing, is it balancing where it needs to be balancing? Because obviously, looking at these numbers with these other communities, the one thing that we don't see is that time committed to just one entity or multiple entities. I'm sure there may be, I don't know. But how do they break those dollars down in cost sharing?
And again, that is, they have access to you, or to GIS, one full day a month.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what
essentially
it's-
12 days a year. So there's times when
Oh, yeah.
we may go out and work with somebody for 2 weeks, or we may
And
do
that would be-
1 day a month or something like that.
Okay. So on that, do you find that you are fulfilling, I mean, they're using their 12 days, each one of them?
How do we, is there a way to, and I didn't mean to interrupt, is there a way to quantify that, or at least show that? I guess, too. How do we?
Like record-wise?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
How do we identify?
Honestly, it would be difficult because we kind of have a lot of what we do benefits the entire county, even things that we do for, like, for example, for North Marshall Water. Well, there's an economic development piece to that also, where we can show, hey, not only do we have water in this area, but we can tell you what size it is, what kind of lines, we can tell you a lot of information. So there's a lot of, because of a lot of the stuff we do, there's a broader benefit to it. You know, honestly, a lot of times we just get the job done. If they need something, there may be some years where we spend more than 12 days. There may be some years where we don't spend that full 12 days. And we're actually looking towards, I've been having some conversations with Roger Colburn to have somebody at North Marshall that can do a lot of this stuff. They can still fall back on us if they need to, if they have some questions, but they can do a lot of that work themselves too. Long-term, we're not going to be the people that get out and do the stuff in the field. And we shouldn't be, because we don't know. I'm not an expert in water systems. I know a whole lot more than I did before I started doing this, but I'm not an expert in water systems, and I'm not out there every single day. And for them to have to wait, a month, or if they have to wait a couple months, if we're busy in a different project, it's really not a good situation. Previously, where there was a lot of expertise, a lot of technical knowledge that went into it. Technology has progressed to the point where a lot of that stuff is just taken care of automatically. It's a lot easier to use. So previously we had to have somebody that really knew how to use all that equipment and knew when it was working and more importantly, when it wasn't working but was telling you that it was working. A lot of that stuff has fixed itself now to where it's a lot more user-friendly. So the goal would be to push a lot of that actual field work back towards them. Now, when we do that, we would probably reduce the amount of money that we're going to bring in as far as doing work for them. We would still just have that cost sharing as far as software and data.
So the amount that you're charging, do you feel like you're recouping software and data, their
Yes.
portion they benefit of that?
Yes. All right, going once. Going twice.
Nobody else
You got
has
it?
any other questions?
No, I think that's.
Okay.
All right, appreciate it, Andy.
Appreciate you.
Do I just start?
You just started.
Just
That's
start
it.
from scratch. Well, typically, when it comes to the ambulance budget, usually our biggest, the biggest line item is typically capital equipment. A few of these things we discussed at the last fiscal court meeting in regards to the heart monitors, because we did have the money budgeted for an ambulance replacement to be paid out in this fiscal year. Due to having troubles getting chassis and whatnot, that's going to be pushed off into the next fiscal year. So looking toward budgeting for next fiscal year is kind of one of the difficulties possibly would be how we're going to kind of navigate that, because if we go and put out for bid for a new ambulance after July 1, and let's say, for example, that they're able to get chassis and they get it in, and then we're looking at possibly having to pay 2 out in the same fiscal year, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? So that's the reason I provided the sheet from Select Tech, because the one that we had approved for this fiscal year that will be paid out in the next fiscal year, it was right at 102,000. Looking at inflation and kind of how the prices of everything going up, I'm sure that looking at next year that it'll probably be higher than that, obviously, for an ambulance remount. We actually spoke with the company, I believe it was a couple days ago, in regards to kind of where we stood with the one that we're waiting on, and they still don't have a timeline for a chassis. So, I mean, it's still posing quite a bit of a problem in getting a chassis to get it remounted. They're actually struggling to keep their guys busy because they can't get chassis. So they're kind of in a bad shape right now. They have a lot of work lined up, but they can't get the chassis, so therefore it's hard for their guys to stay busy. So that's kind of in regards to an ambulance remount. That's one of the biggest or possible hurdles that I kind of foresee and how we kind of possibly want to try to navigate that. And then the other thing I provided as far as the heart monitors we talked about, I've started the work on doing the grant application for the other 3 monitors, the 2 Lucas devices. And then on the back of the quote from Stryker, I got the trade-in amount that we discussed in the court meeting. I couldn't remember what it was off the top of my head. You're looking at, it's $6,500 per monitor you trade in. So us trading in 3, that would be a total of $19,500. So that will actually take the projected cost for the monitors that we're looking at purchasing with this year's capital equipment money down to $52,307.96. So decent little savings there with the trade-ins. And then that was kind of another question that I kind of had in regards to like the Homeland Security grant. And it'll be kind of difficult to navigate because Homeland Security doesn't typically approve their grants until usually late September, October. So I know Stryker usually does a price increase every year toward the end of the year. And I know the promo that they're running right now with the $19,650 and 50 cents runs throughout the entire calendar year. So I'm not sure if the court possibly want to look at taking advantage of this pricing if we weren't approved for Homeland Security money, to go ahead and replace our other 3 monitors to complete our transition from the V1 versions to the V4. Typically, these monitors as I said in the court meeting, they're priced now for 19.6. They usually run 30,000 per unit. So it's not something that we have to do, just kind of an idea that I'd kind of had and possibly just wanted to throw out to kind of see, what you guys' thoughts were on that, in regards to trying to take advantage of that, the really good pricing they have going right now. And then other than that, the other line items we have, like as far as the uniforms, recertification costs, those, we're doing pretty good with those. So, I don't really see necessarily any reason to increase those tremendously. Like a lot of things, there's been some definitely increases and small increases in the prices of the shirts and pants and that kind of thing. But typically, with it being at 9,000, I believe it is, we usually do pretty well with that. The recertification cost, that one's kind of that's like shooting at a moving target, because I can take and count how many people that I currently have employed that will be up for renewal at the end of December. And let's say that I count 6 people. Well, let's say 3 of those move on to greener pastures, and then I hire 3 more, and then they're not due for renewal, so we may come under. And if it works vice versa, if I have 3 leave that aren't due for renewal this year, and then I hire 3 that are due for renewal, then we'll have to pay for theirs too. So it's kind of like I said, it's kind of a moving target, but I think typically we've done pretty well in staying within that line item.
All right, so we budgeted 225 last year for the equipment line item. Is that right? All right there.
I thought it was 125.
It was 225, because you had something else that carried over. Let me see what it was, what you spent out of there. I feel like we were in the same situation last year. You had something that wasn't coming in before the end of the year, so we had to carry it over, if I remember correctly.
I believe the last remount we had came in.
I hate to tell you that you were approved for $100,000. That's what's on it.
Okay, so you spent in September, we had to pay Select Tech $96,000.
Yes.
And then you still had, so you had 225, so we paid Select Tech $96,000 in this fiscal year, and you're telling me if they had an ambulance to give you right now, we'd be paying for another one right now. So that's the reason it's
Yeah.
225.
Okay.
It's because the way it was the
The
billing
way
was
it
gonna
fell.
fall.
Yeah. And
Which is-
that situation right there is kind of similar to what we may be looking at next year with regards to the remounts.
So that being said, is 225 the number again because of that remount?
If you were going to do another one next year as well, yeah. You'd pay for the one that you approved this year and for one for next year. So it'll just continue.
Yeah, because
until
the
they
Select
get
Tech,
quicker.
the quote that, or the approval notice that you have there was approved in October. So typically, whenever it's approved in October under normal conditions, we would probably have the unit there by February or March, and then they would have it completed by April. So usually it would be approved and paid in the same fiscal year, but because, I can't remember exactly what the circumstances were for the other one, but, with COVID and everything right now and the little chips with the chassis, that's kind of why this one is being pushed off. Because even when they approved this one in October, they told us that it would be at least a year before we'd see a chassis. And we touched base with them again the other day, and they're still looking at about the same time frame as far as getting them. So I would venture to say, even if we got the process started super early, the next fiscal year, and we had it approved, say, July 15th, that it would be July 15th of 2023, or 2024 at that time, before we'd see the actual remount. Which is tough, because it kind of puts us in a little bit of a bind, which, it's not their fault, but, usually at the end of a 6-year time frame that an ambulance has been in service, there's 230,000 miles of hard work.
Mm-hmm. So is the 96 all that he's used of the 225? So there's
Well, and then the which I sent Corey the bid notice for the monitors that we're looking at purchasing with some of this money. So depending on what it comes in at, but I would venture it to be really close to $52,307.96.
Which is still gonna be.
Which is still less, yeah.
Is that gonna be, I can't remember what we decided, or what you told us the other day, so is that is that gonna be paid in this year? This budget year, or will it carry
For
over?
these, hopefully.
Okay,
That's the goal.
okay, so we can
Hopefully.
assume 96 plus one, or
It's actually
52.
99, but yes,
Oh.
99 plus 50.
Yeah. The 52, yeah.
Okay, so 150, so we'd have 75 approximately to carry over.
That's not getting us the ambulance and the chassis that,
No, like I said, the
budget
one
for
was
this year.
approved
No,
last
that
year was
wouldn't
102,000, and then, I don't know if you guys have priced a truck lately, but I would say the chassis are gonna be probably a little bit higher than they were,
Yeah.
even this year.
can you use a used Volvo?
Red one?
I guess that would depend. Beggars can't be choosers, so.
The wagon, all-wheel
Use a
drive.
great all.
There you go.
Sometimes you have to get creative.
Maybe some metal shavings in the transmission, but.
Van
A van with no
from
engine.
animal control. We got a van we'll give you.
Yeah.
You can have it.
Yeah.
Sounds like good options, too.
Fantastic. Yeah, don't worry. So 75 to carry over that we'd already committed to. So new money wise,
So 75
Yes,
to carry over, you'd need the difference between that and the 102, and then another 115-ish if you were going to do an extra ambulance. If you were going to stay on track and do another ambulance that year.
And if you need me to reach
You
out to them,
expect-
go ahead.
You expect it potentially being the second one, being in July? I mean, I know it's a moving target.
You talking about as far as like getting it approved through the court, or actually like taking delivery of it?
Delivery.
Oh, gosh. You talking about the one that looking at approving next year? I mean, it would be at least a year.
so it might not even be in that.
Well, and that's what makes it difficult,
It could
is
just
because.
continue to
You
roll.
would have to budget for it just in case. It comes in June instead of July.
Yeah, because I mean,
23.
like anything with
Right.
COVID, I mean, it may turn around at the snap of somebody's fingers, and then all of a sudden they have more chassis than they can, remount ambulances for, but,
Yeah.
it
That
is,
sounds
it's kind of
good.
a stab in the dark. I mean, it's.
Sounds good. It's probably not.
I would venture to say that's probably not gonna happen,
Yeah.
but,
So I'd say you'd almost need 150 in next year as the line amount, so 75 carryover of that.
And another 75 new money, essentially. Or are you saying 150?
Well,
Well, 75 carryover, and then the difference of a
So-
new,
30 plus another 115 or something, so like
150 of new money, I would say.
150 in new money.
75 and 150.
So basically, same
Still needs to be
budget
225,
as
yeah.
last year, 225, because it has another carryover.
Sorry, I think I said that wrong. 150 of new money. 150 of new money. 75 of carryover.
we knew what you meant.
You said 150, you said 115-ish, you think, maybe, if you were taking a shot in the dark for the one you haven't ordered yet?
If I was gonna take a shot in the dark, I'd probably actually go a little bit higher.
Oh, okay, 115 was what my note said, but,
I mean, if you were gonna pin me to ballpark in a remount right now, I'd say probably close to 125. Primarily the biggest part of that being.
That's still-
Not,
No, because we're 30, right? We're
So he'd be-
30 short.
he'd be paying 102 next year, he'd be paying 102, plus now he's saying 125, that's 227. 75 of that's carryover, so that's 152 of new money. For a total of whatever I just said,
227.
227.
227 versus 225. So 227 is the number if we did another remount.
Just something else to think about. I know we talked about submitting for grants. Those grants aren't guaranteed.
I'm trying to remain really optimistic,
Yeah.
but they haven't been good to us for the last couple of years. So I'm hoping maybe
Yeah.
that we'll have pretty decent, some pretty decent luck with that.
And there's no way to hold on the remount, the additional remount until we know from KOHS or whoever.
I mean,
For the grant.
we could, but I mean, you're still, because with it being a year out, you're just putting yourself further and further back. Because like the ambulance that we have waiting right now to be remounted needs to be remounted,
I got
like
you.
yesterday.
Okay.
But I mean, it's kind of like, even if we did kind of, look at postponing it, you're just kind of, I'd say kicking the can down the road, but.
Yeah.
I mean, if we weren't looking at, the year-long timeframe with the chassis, this would be a whole lot easier to try to navigate. And typically, that's what it is. Like I said, usually we can have it approved by, have the bid approved by September, October, and then they'll call us and we'll have the unit down there by February, March, and then they have it done by, this time of year, we usually already have it back.
But again, this 52.3 is, as far as we know anyway, that's a commitment through the end of the year, right?
Through this
So
fiscal year, yes.
if the grant does not go through, we do know that it will cost us this amount. That will not change.
Yes, out of this year's budget, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at next year, as far as the heart monitors, like, yeah, if we were looking at doing the other three, like, that grant money wouldn't be until, like I said, usually they approve the grant applications and we get notification, usually toward the end of September.
Well, but
With a
I'm
couple-
saying this discount, though. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
you
this
told
discount-
me, right, for sure, that
Yeah,
this
the discount only runs through the end of the
price
year.
is through the end of the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where I say that, if we were looking at, say, if the whole remount thing wasn't a big issue or wasn't that confusing, if we wanted to look at taking advantage of that pricing, we would still be kind of putting ourselves in a squeeze, but not on our end because, we could look, if the court would approve the money, we could have that ready. The problem is that Stryker every year has to have commitments from customers for certain items because they institute a price increase. And I want to say it's usually around October, toward the end of the year. So basically, if you want to take advantage of that pricing, then you have to have it committed
By
to
then.
by then. So it kind of puts us in a little bit of a situation of you're waiting for the grant application to find out whether or not you're approved, and then the price increase usually fall about the same time. So it's kind of,
Okay. All right.
it's kind of hard to navigate
Yeah.
to a degree.
Yep. You think that 6,500 is a commitment, or is that, could they change that?
I would say that's probably something you could get them to commit to, yeah.
Just wonder.
When you sweet talk salesmen real good, they can work more wonders than they
They'll
let
do
you know.
Well, it's on
But yeah,
it's on film right now, so we can
Yeah.
always go back
Yeah, oh,
and
yeah.
see that.
well, that's what I went back and
That's what we
this,
have down anyway.
and unless they're giving more for them, this discount, I got the discounted price from the grant application we submitted last year to Homeland Security for the monitors. And that's what they were allowing us. They were allowing us $6,500 per monitor for trade-in.
So that hadn't changed.
I know that's a lot to digest. In addition to everything else you've already gone over.
All right, appreciate it,
All
bro.
right.
Thank you, sir.
If anybody has any questions, just feel free to reach out to me.
All right.
All right.
Floor is yours.
I'll start with the easier stuff at the bottom, and then we'll discuss what I handed you out in a minute. So the very first bullet point at the bottom on this email and notes that came from Erica from our meeting, it says integration into the iPause system. iPause is a free system that is run by FEMA. It allows us to use the emergency broadcast system. It would have been very useful during the tornado. It doesn't just rely on the subscriptions for Code Red. It actually, any phone inside our county area will get an alert when we send one. And it has to pair with your county alert system, so it would have to integrate with Code Red, and then it would also have to integrate with our CAD system. And the fees that you see there are from Code Red. It would be a $5,000 cost, and they're working with that cost with me to integrate. A $2,000 one-time setup cost, and then the bill for Code Red would go up by $1,250 a month. There is some good news about this. I've been working with the Emergency Management Director to talk to the folks at CMAP. We've had a couple meetings on this. We're scheduling another one, and there are talks of partnering with us. So it'd be a private-public partnership. I'm not sure how much CMAP's willing to invest in that, but they like that idea to get the citizens out in case of an incident. So, like I say, this would have been useful during the EOC of the tornado. If you need to send people a message, say, hey, go here for supplies, go here for shelter, go here for whatever, you could put the message out, draw your fence around where you want it to go, and all phones, not just the ones subscribed to Code Red, all cell phones driving through our area, people who don't live here, all of them notified. You can clear certain areas and keep the others remaining inside the warning. I was shocked that we really don't have it with having Code Red and everything else when I came here. I've used it everywhere else I've been. I just think with what we went through in December, it would be a good investment, especially if the plants are willing to help us. I think it kind of woke them up a little bit as an early warning thing. How do we do that? And the reason you would want to integrate it into the CAD is because you would have to type the message. So we would come up with a canned message that when this happens, we create a CAD event for it. Inside the computer, it would go ahead, and inside that geo-fenced area that we draw on the map, it would go ahead and send an alert to every phone without us having to intervene. And then we would send the updated message when we have time to formulate it and actually give instructions. So what we come up with then was shelter in place inside that certain area and wait for further instruction. So once we got the further instruction from CMAP or emergency management or whoever, then we would type out the next message. And we have the ability to clear areas inside that fence, but also leave other areas alerted. It also partners with local media, so if we set that up, it would go across the televisions, it would also go across desktop computers and any other means without intervention from Code Red. It doesn't matter if you're a subscriber or not. So I think that, especially with that partnership, but the totals you see here would cover it if we don't get any partnership. I wanted to go ahead and add that in there. And as far as our CAD project that we have going on with the grant money, that was included in the bid that I sent out to get them to actually do that integration, so there'll be no cost on that side as well. It's covered. So that group wouldn't charge for an integration fee as well. Any questions about that?
That's, I know the 2,000 you said is a one-time setup cost. Are the other two, or those are monthly?
The integration fee would be a one-time, and then the $1,250 up of the Code Red bill would be every year. So Code Red would go up by $1,250. And the
Okay.
$7,000 would be a one-time deal for the integration. That's the work they have to do on their side to make iPause work with their system and integrate with our CAD so it sends the message out like it needs to.
So the 7,000 is one time, the 1,250 is monthly,
$1,250 is yearly.
yearly.
Or is it monthly? No, it's yearly. It would go up by $1,250 a year.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yeah, it's yearly.
okay. So it's essentially a one-time.
Yeah. On the communication and maintenance line, we need to cover Texty. It was added as far as to our budget before we got here, but it's not really in that line, so we're working on a total of what we need to do there. I'll have that provided. I don't have the amount right now. We're working on getting those things together so we know how much we need in that line, but we're having to move and pull things from other places. We just need to figure out what needs to go in that line and get it there. For the move to the new building, we've got some NCIC supplies and some licensing we're going to have to get the terminals out there. I don't have a quote on that yet because we're not ready to do it, but when we do, it should be a minimal cost. Probably already have it built in the budget, but I want to have that just in case and make y'all aware of that just in case. And then the last thing on the bullet points is some sort of a uniform budget so we can have our folks recognized as employees. When people see them, the embroidery to get the Marshall County logo, the lake on their shirts, and maybe Marshall County 911 on a polo shirt for them, so folks will know who they are, and, they're not showing up in T-shirts and jeans and things like that. It gives them a little sense of pride in where they're at and what they're doing, and help them out a little bit as well. Any questions on any of that? All right, moving on to the other thing that I gave you, that's a list of reported salaries for dispatch centers across the state as far as telecommunicators go. When I first came, we were paid about equally with everyone else out here, but over the past couple of years, there's been an extensive revamp of salaries of dispatch centers. State police just got a big raise. It's not reflected in this because this is last year's PSAP survey. It'll be reflected next year when their raise actually starts, but we start at $13.70 now, and that's one of the lower rates in the community. I mean, we're getting them, we're training them, and they're going to McCracken or Trigg. I just lost an employee with 30 years experience making $16.50 an hour. He left to go to Trigg County, work 36 hours, get paid for 40, and got $21.85. So, I mean, I can't blame him with a salary like that. He lives in Jonathan Creek, so the drive's not that far for him, but, we also have a pay scale within the county, and in looking at that pay scale, when these folks get their certifications, like the one that's required to go to DOCJT and the NCIC certifications, it says with certain certifications, you can work inside those pay rates. But we hire our folks, leave them inside that one at $13.70, and all they get's a cost of living rate. So we really need to look at what the admin code is saying, where our folks should be with the certifications that they have, and work within the pay scale that's there.
So this report is as of what date?
It's September 30, 2021 is when they were due, so it would have been the year of 2021. 2020, 2021, I believe is what it should be. But yeah, we don't have the data this year because we've not done it. We'll do it in September and submit it. And currently, we run just enough staff to handle what we've got right now. So if somebody takes off, we're burning overtime. If we got a sick day, we're burning overtime. If we got somebody take a vacation, we're burning overtime. We just probably need 1 to 2 people just to cover to allow our folks to take off. I've got so many topped out on vacation time, they're losing their time. This problem is not just Marshall County alone. This problem is across the nation with pay for this job and what folks think this job is versus actually what it is and the training that you have to have. Staffing shortages, nothing new to most centers. And, can't blame a 911 director for taking somebody that's trained versus having somebody come in green off the street that they've got to invest 6 months to a year in to get them up to speed. I mean, it's a common practice. If somebody's looking and you pay more, they're going to go.
Are we having any luck with
The contract?
whatever that was?
Yeah.
The part-time?
The people that we currently have weren't in effect of that. So we've hired one under that. I believe she's under that. And then this new one we're going to hire to replace Jamie will be under that.
I'm talking about that. Are we talking about the same thing? I'm talking about.
You talking about when we have other PSAPs covering
Yes.
our positions?
Yeah.
Oh, do what now?
Like,
I don't know that I know about that. That may have been while I was off.
Yeah.
So if there's a shift that's short, trying to get other dispatchers who are certified to come and work.
We did reach out for that, but if you have the same problem in McCracken County, you're making $18, $19 an hour and you don't have to drive and you're getting overtime, why drive 30 minutes to get $13.70 and not get any overtime? So they're getting time and a half to stay and work their own overtime. Even if you make the same pay or less, you're getting time and a half to stay in your own center and work the overtime, so. McCracken's shorthanded now too. I think they're hiring 3 and I've got one that's looking to go there because of the pay raise. It's almost $4 for her.
So this KSP, I'm sure, is prior to, well, I know it is.
Yeah, it's prior to their raise that they just got, yep. And plus, there's items on the KSP side of it that aren't reflected in that salary. Like they get a training stipend. When I was there, it was $4,100 a year. It was tax-free. So it wasn't included in our paycheck. Plus, we got a $500 a year uniform bonus that wasn't included either. So they're making what the state's showing they're making plus those bonuses.
So I know we have, go through this, individually and look at specific areas and all that stuff. But I know we've talked about, and I know obviously this salary calculations that we would have had last year versus now are not valid because those folks primarily are not with us anymore, so it would definitely have to be updated. But do you have an actual suggestion for each individual? You do?
So I had sent, no, not a dollar figure. I've got a category suggestion from each department head. So when we first started meeting, I sent all department heads the list of the categories and said, please put your employees in one of these categories. So we can define where they're at, but then you have the scale. So that's going to be kind of probably partially the request from the department head and how you all view it too.
The document that you sent earlier, though, it's not those individuals. It's
the categories. Yes, it's not the salary schedule, but that's what I'm working off of.
That's what your work.
That's what I'll work off of as I put them in a category, and then I'll say, here's what their current rate is.
And here's what the department head suggests.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. When will we have that?
I can send it over, just so you can start skimming it. I mean, as we'll work through it, obviously we'll have to make changes, but I mean, at least you'll know. I've pretty much heard from everybody. I do need to sit down with Roger and get him, I think, squared away on it. I don't think it'll take long, but I mean, I think within the next few days, I can have it out to you guys.
Yeah, and I think and I think you need to have that before it's sent, because that's one that's
It's a big one.
Impact, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big one that's
Yep.
impacted also because of the change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So is the code red in yours or is it in the OEM?
No, it's in the EM's budget, but, you know, that's particular to me, so I can actually, if you want to put it in my budget, we can pay it out of mine and not raise lines in his that wouldn't affect his budget.
The total or just the increase?
Just the 1250. Yeah, I couldn't absorb it all because of the way that the KRS is written, but that's directly due to the delivery and dispatch of a 911 call, so we could actually do that with the integration of CAD. So that cost could be paid out of my budget. But again, I'm not sure what that cost is going to be because of the meetings going on with the plants right now. So CMAP's very interested in a partnership with us because they need an alerting system, and this one is a good fit for both of us. So
Who'd you say?
do what?
Who?
CMAP, the Calvert Industrial Complex, that group of safety individuals. We met at Evonik probably 3 weeks back maybe, and I've been talking to some individuals from there, and they're interested in partnering with us.
Anybody else got any questions?
All right, well, I appreciate it, gentlemen.
Appreciate it,
Thank you.
Chris.
Y'all have a good day.
Thank you.